I'm going to call the meeting to order. This is the City Council regular meeting for Tuesday, May 4th, 2021. It is, I think, a little after 6. I'll leave it to Larissa to say what time it is. And this meeting will be conducted by a remote video and teleconference pursuant to 1 MRSA subsection 403A. Members of the public may join the meeting by phone by dialing 1-929-205-6099 using meeting ID 837-1746-0061 and password 757901 or via computer at the link provided on the city's website. Members of the public may also submit comments by the City of Sanford website at www.sanfordmaine.org under email, city departments, city council. I would ask that you all mute your computers, and Councilor Hanselman will lead the Pledge of Allegiance and ask for a moment of silence. Councilor. You're still muted, Councilor Hanselman.
My apologies, folks. I pledge the allegiance to the United States. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry. I'm actually not feeling well and I didn't realize I was doing this. For me to just restart. I have to have it in front of me for fear of making a mistake. So thank you for bearing with me. Can somebody rescue me on this?
Councilor Hanselman, I'll be glad to do it, okay?
Thank you so much.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize that you weren't feeling well. All right. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Well, join me in a moment of silence, please. Thank you. Okay, roll call. Councilor Martell.
I can get this to unmute. Present.
Councilor Hanselman.
Present.
Councilor Tuttle.
Present.
Councilor Stackpole.
Present.
Councilor Lanigan.
Present.
Deputy Mayor Herlihy.
Present.
And I'm Anne Marie Mastracchio, the mayor of the city of Sanford, and we're joined tonight by Stephen Buck, the city manager, and Larissa Ricketts, the manager's executive assistant. Okay, minutes. 21-220-01, order to approve the minutes from the executive session of the City Council held on Tuesday, April 20th, 2021. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
That is a motion by Councilor Tuttle. Is there a second?
Second.
I think I heard Councilor Stackpole first, but I'm not positive. So I will take the second with Councilor Stackpole. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will call the roll. Councilor Martell.
Yes.
Councilor Hanselman.
Yes.
Councilor Tuttle.
Yes.
Councilor Stackpole.
Yes.
Councilor Lanigan.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Herlihy.
Yes.
And I am also yes, that is unanimous. 21-221-01, order to approve the minutes from the regular city council meeting held on Tuesday, April 20th, 2021. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
That is a motion by Councilor Tuttle. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilor Martell. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, I will call the roll. Councilor Martell.
Yes.
Councilor Hanselman.
Yes.
Councilor Tuttle.
Yes.
Councilor Stackpole.
Yes.
Councilor Lanigan.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Herlihy.
Yes.
And I am also yes, that is unanimous vote. Mayor's report, City Council Subcommittee reports. There are no City Council Subcommittee reports this evening, and I do have a short Mayor's report. The City Manager and I testified this morning at a Taxation Committee public hearing in support of Representative Tuttle's bill, LD 1525, an act to eliminate the use tax the city pays on pay-as-you-throw bags purchased by the city for sale to citizens. Next step in the process will be a work session that is yet to be scheduled. The Mayor's Coalition met virtually with representatives of Maine State Housing Authority to discuss homelessness and housing issues facing municipalities. Topics discussed included housing assistance funding, ongoing work designed to address the homeless population, and pending legislation. We plan to meet again at the end of the legislative session to see where programs and funding stand. Last Thursday, Deputy Mayor Herlihy and I were invited by Southern Maine Healthcare to tour the new Summer Commons, which is replacing the Newton Center. Summer Commons is a state-of-the-art licensed 64-bed skilled nursing care center with a 30-bed assisted living unit specializing in memory care located adjacent to the old facility. They expect to begin transferring residents into the new facility in the middle of May, and the new Newton Sweat Center will be torn down in the fall. And on Friday, Councillor Hanselman and I were able to get a look at TPD Construction's most recent project, Austin Place. Located by the Rotary at the intersection of Route 4 and 109 and consisting of 12 two-bedroom units, TPD reports all units are leased out and tenants moving in. The principals in both of these projects have partnered with the city in various ways to bring these projects to completion, and they are projects we can all be proud of. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention that today is National Teacher Day, and Thursday, May 6th, is National Nurses Day. It's hard to imagine two professions that could have been any more challenged over the past year, and they all deserve our recognition and thanks. That's all I have. I don't think anyone else has anything that they'd like to report on. I don't see any hands up, so we will go to the city manager's report. Mr. Buck.
I apologize. I do not have a formal written report this evening. Given the events of today, I was unable to produce a report. I will touch on a couple of things that have occurred over the last couple of days, both at the Southern Maine the Southern Maine Healthcare Board of Directors, as well as the York County Emergency Management updates. It was noted today on both of those meetings that the demand for vaccine has dropped off precipitously. So they're talking about they've reduced staff hours at a number of the vaccination centers, especially the mega center here. They've gone to evening hours, trying to find ways to make it easier for people to come in and get their vaccines. They're still taking appointments, but they also are accepting walk-ins as well. They're doing a number of outreach clinics now. Predominantly, that's been the paramedic teams through the incident management team of York County. They've been reaching out in a number of locations. Today, for example, our paramedics were in Kittery doing a clinic of about 370 people that had signed up for vaccinations there. They had done one the day before that at Pratt & Whitney for employees that were calling for it there. While I was out last week, Art Cleves called me from the Emergency Management Authority and said, Steve, we have vaccines available. Do you need to route those to any of your employees? HR did a quick review. We had not more than 2 employees that were still outstanding that wanted a vaccine. We were able to take care of those. So I've seen the graphics that illustrated the difference between the number of people that were scheduled on a given day versus those that were no-shows. The concern now is that they're, pulling vials out of storage because they have to in order to get it prepared, and people aren't showing up, and vaccinations are actually being discarded at the end of the day because they can't get people enough for what's been called for the day. So I did ask at the York County meeting. It's my understanding that Dr. Shaw is going to be here in Sanford Thursday evening. I did call out for the fact that it would be timely for the state to do an educational campaign to the public for those people that may not have gotten their vaccine yet, that still want to get a vaccine, the ease and ability for that to take place. Other indications were that the J&J vaccine was still viewed positively and is being specifically requested by many people because they want the one shot and not have to return 3 or 4 weeks later for a second shot to be completely vaccinated. Other elements that I believe are positive at the state level, there continues to be very, very good momentum around revenue sharing to move that from the 3.75% as it is currently to the full 5% as called out in law starting in the next biannual budget, which would be July 1st. That would be not based upon the latest projections because state knows now that it has an excessive amount of revenue that was not anticipated. At a minimum, it would be an additional $538,000 to the city. So a significant boost to us to help offset property taxation, net property taxation. There's also strong momentum around funding the homestead, the $25,000 homestead from the 70% reimbursement by the state to 100% reimbursement. That in itself is in another additional $600,000. Very strong developments in both of those areas. And there's also discussion about further funding going into the EPS funding formula as the state continues to strive to reach the 55% that was voted on by the people nearly a decade ago. Other elements in the last couple of days, the joint land use study that's being sponsored by the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard and the town of Kittery. We're in the implementation phase. We had the third phase meeting of that. Out of that, the transportation elements continue to be positive for Sanford and for the region. We're still under consideration for a park and ride here. That would be the property adjacent to the Cumberland Farms, the former Emerson School lot. We're in alignment for transportation hub there. There's a minimum of 15 van pools that are running out of Sanford, currently only for the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard. We're looking at those aspects. They're also looking to encourage business development around such multi-modal hubs. So you'd already have the Cumberland Farms that would be there as an anchor for fueling and refreshments and such under that. Also, the very positive development is the regional aspect of this. They're now looking at all areas of employment, especially Pratt & Whitney, Fuzzy Seating, and other manufacturing locations from Sanford all the way south to the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard to include their worker transportation needs into the regional solution for improving public transportation, improving park and ride facilities, ride shares, such under that. The other elements of the transportation really center around the 25-minute radius around Portsmouth Naval Shipyard by vehicle, what 25 minutes get you on foot, what 25 minutes get you on bike, things of that nature. The other aspect of this, which is the major reason why the transportation element is there, is housing. Cost of housing, the affordability for workforce housing. There are two major elements to that. They will be announcing soon. There's going to be a multi-day conference on this. Their committee's been chosen already, but we'll be invited to participate in that. The morning sessions will focus on two major pieces of land. One piece of land in Kittery and another piece of land in Berwick. South of Berwick. That they're looking at putting some high-density housing development in there to relieve some of the pressure for the workforce housing for the shipyard. And then the remaining study will be more to the regional housing aspects for all of York County as it applies to workforce housing and the need associated with that. So bring forward that information as soon as it gets started again in earnest. There's one more meeting, the fourth meeting that's been fully funded to this point. And after that, that will be the wrap up on the transportation and the housing, the recommendations. And then it's a matter of seeking out funding sources. You need to return a call to the Maine Department of Transportation because of the funding that's coming in a rapid fashion. Some of Sanford's projects are key in that initiative, and I expect to have a conversation around the transportation hub as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Does anyone have any questions? Councilor Hurley.
I did use my raise hand function.
I saw it. I was just looking at Steve, could we stop sharing for a minute, please?
So Steve, I just want to point, I was driving back from Saco today, and there was a really good fresh air on that both you and people on the Growth Council, I'm going to re-listen to it because I was in and out of the car a bit, on economic development, on it was just interesting. It talked about some urban areas, but it just talked about, just listen to it. As you mentioned, the housing, obviously that's a piece of it, but also this tendency of businesses to move when they're given huge tax breaks. This is one of the interesting things I thought. When they're given huge tax breaks to move somewhere, it causes actually depletion in the ability to provide the stuff necessary to keep a good workforce in the area, tax-wise, like good education, good housing. And so as those things deplete, the attraction for the area, which is the good workforce, the education level, et cetera, and then the taxes. Anyway, it's really good. It was very, very interesting, and I really think you should try to catch it. And I just want to throw that out because the housing brought it up, and just the looking at the holistic, as you're talking about transportation, as you're talking about housing, I think we need to look at that element of it, making sure we already focus on our education, but making sure we recognize how important it is to the longevity of a business being somewhere. Anyway, it was really good. I think everybody on the council should listen.
Will you
to it.
send us that? Do you have a link for that?
I will find to make sure I get I'll find the right one to make sure you guys listen to the right one. But I think it was very stuff we think about, but give it a different perspective to some degree. So all the stuff we're thinking about, a different perspective, and I will get it out to you. Yep.
Thank you. I don't see anybody else's hand up, but I have a question, Steve. Especially since Dr. Shaw's coming, has there been any thought? I mean, I sense that now they're having smaller clinics, walk-in type clinics, and in Sanford, I think it would be really helpful. I mean, just knowing the population, because it used to be my house district, that there are the urban core, if there was a possibility of having a more localized clinic. So in the east side, for example, whether it's through York County Community Action, 1 or 2 days a week where they had I just have a feeling that you would have a lot of people who might walk into something that it's just like too much at this point to try to figure out a ride, even call for a ride, make an appointment, and make sure they make it. And I just wondered if that discussion had been occurring at all.
I'll continue to have that discussion with Chief Benatti and the York County Incident Management Team. Their disappointment was a couple of their clinics. We had 500 doses available to stand up. That's the typical clinic that they stand up. One of those clinics had 30 respondents. It's just dropped off so rapidly, so unexpected that the demand for the vaccine dropped off as quickly as what it has. That was my impetus for putting it out. It's time for the state to put a large public education campaign out there. It's readily available. It's easy to acquire.
Do you have the numbers for Sanford in terms of the percent of person who's that is vaccinated? Because I think that would be more helpful data for us.
Yeah, I currently can only drill it down to York County from the state, and I can drill it down by county. I don't have the Sanford specific numbers. I can acquire of Amanda Luciano at the state, and or Adam Hartwig. They both work for the state CDC. Amanda seems to be my data person. I can ask her for some data, and she comes up with it. So I'll see what I can get from her.
Okay, that would be real. I just think we need to figure out. I mean, I'm going to just worry about Sanford. I'm worried about us. I want us to we want to take the vaccine where the people are, because clearly there's people that aren't going to go where we've had it. So I agree with you. There needs to be an education component, but I do think that we have to figure out where the population is that hasn't been vaccinated, go there and offer it. And if it's J&J, that's the best, one shot and not have to go back. So I have a feeling that we have more work to do, and I think we just have to get out there and get it done. Anybody else have any questions for the city manager? Okay, leave it like this for just a sec till we get through public participation, Steve, if you don't mind. We have communications and presentations. We have none. And public participation, I haven't been notified that anybody wants to speak. Larissa, can you help me just scan the attendees and make sure no one has their hand up? Speak under public participation. I'm not seeing any notes, anything in the chat. So I'm going to assume that everybody is here for other reasons. Okay. All right. We will go on to public hearings. The City Council will take public comment on the following. 21-222-01. A public hearing on a proposed cable television franchise agreement between the City of Sanford and Comcast of Maine, New Hampshire, Incorporated. I'll declare the public hearing open. Is there anyone to speak in favor? Steve, would you like to introduce whoever's going to present this? Or
Yes, so the city has entered into discussions with Comcast. Pursuant to City Code, Chapter 97, we must hold a requisite public hearing in order to gain the public's input on the pending negotiation of a franchise agreement with Comcast. Here with us this evening is Attorney Ben Plant. He's assisted the city as far as the negotiation of the contract. He has extensive experience in this regard, and that's why his services were sought. Also with us tonight, I believe, is Tim Kelly of Comcast, as well as Brian Christensen, also of Comcast, to represent the company. The city has gone a long way into the negotiation process. We're going to let Attorney Ben Plant present on the highlights of what's in the franchise agreement, those elements, and then open that up to the public and allow Comcast to answer questions that might be raised from the public and or the city council.
okay, go ahead, Ben. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve, and good evening again, City Council members and everyone watching at home. Again, my name is Ben Plant. I'm an attorney with Drummond Woodsome's Municipal Law Practice Group. The city manager and the city council have asked me here this evening to introduce the major provisions of a draft cable franchise agreement between the city of Sanford and Comcast Cable. In January of this year, Comcast Cable approached the city with an offer to enter into a cable franchise agreement that will enable Comcast to build out cable TV infrastructure in the city of Sanford and to provide cable service to the city's residents. Since that time, the city manager and myself and the city's cable franchise committee have worked with Comcast to reach an agreement on the draft cable franchise proposal. So what I'll be presenting to the public this evening are really sort of the major substantive components of this draft franchise agreement, and a little more specifically, the provisions of the agreement upon which the city and Comcast have reached agreement. And I'd also like to note that that what I'm presenting tonight is not the final agreement. There are still some terms that the city and Comcast need to reach agreement on. And so therefore, the city council will not be voting on this or voting to approve this franchise agreement this evening. So with that, what I'd like to do is introduce the public to the major components of this draft. And then I think I will turn this over to Tim and Brian for any additional information or comments they might like to add to my presentation. And then after that, Tim, Brian, the city, and myself will be available for fielding any comments or questions from the public. So with that, I'll launch into the specifics of Comcast's proposal. So Comcast is offering to enter into a 10-year cable franchise agreement with the city to commence upon the date that the city council votes to approve this agreement. And the cable franchise agreement may be renewed thereafter once this 10-year period has expired. Comcast is proposing to build out its infrastructure and network across essentially the entirety of the city. Most, if not all, of the populated areas of the city. And once Comcast's initial cable system is built, Comcast has agreed to extend its cable system to any newly developed areas of the city that meet certain density requirements that are specified in the agreement. Comcast has also proposed a generous funding match to build out to any residents or prospective subscribers who may request service but are located more than 300 feet away from Comcast's existing infrastructure. Specifically with respect to the programming that Comcast will offer, Comcast has offered to provide sort of broad categories of programming to residents within the city. This includes news, sports, public affairs, children's entertainment, foreign language and local programming, to name a few. As I understand it, there are a number of residents within the city who are French speakers. And Comcast has agreed to use all commercially reasonable efforts to maintain French language channels within the service offerings that it provides to subscribers within the city. In addition, Comcast has proposed to provide 2 public educational and governmental access channels to the city for the city to broadcast council meetings such as this, school board meetings, community events, and the like. Comcast will initially provide these channels to the city in standard digital format. However, Comcast has agreed to give the city the option to transmit these public educational or governmental access channels, or PEG for short, has agreed to transmit these PEG channels in high definition format in the future, if the city should so choose. So that means that, maybe someday in the future, everyone may be viewing these meetings in high definition format. Additionally, Comcast has offered to provide the city with a $120,000 grant, $12,000 of which will be provided to the city each year for the term of the 10-year agreement. And this grant funding may be used by the city for purchasing PEG access equipment for transmitting these PEG programming, if you will, and for constructing any additional PEG access facilities as the city may choose. Additionally, federal law permits municipalities to collect a franchise fee from a cable company that is offering cable service within a municipality's borders. And Comcast is proposing to pay the city a franchise fee of 5% of Comcast's gross annual revenue derived from Comcast's operation of the cable system within the city. So this 5% franchise fee is actually the maximum franchise fee that can be collected by a city under federal law. So in essence, Comcast has offered the city the statutory maximum franchise fee that the city can receive. Additionally, and consistent with federal law, Comcast has agreed to maintain all subscriber privacy in accordance with federal and state law, and has agreed to what I view as fairly robust complaint procedures for resolving subscriber complaints. So Comcast will operate a call center that is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, for subscribers within the city to call and raise any concerns or complaints they have or they may have with respect to Comcast service. And additionally, as I understand it, Comcast will also offer residents the opportunity to raise questions and concerns through a number of online features that are offered through Comcast's service and online portals. So with that, I mean, those are sort of the major components of the agreement and what the city and Comcast have reached agreement on to date. With that, Tim and Brian, I'll turn this over to you for any additional information you'd like to present to the public prior to opening this up to public comment.
Absolutely. Thank you, Attorney Plant. That was a really comprehensive overview. I have to say, first of all, Madam Mayor, my name is Tim Kelly. I'm Vice President of Government Regulatory Affairs for Comcast. I have an address at 426 East First Street, Boston, Massachusetts, 02127. Madam Mayor, Deputy Mayor, Honorable Councilors, City Manager.
Could I just interrupt you for a minute? Excuse me, I
Yes.
don't mean to interrupt you. I just wondered if we could show the whole screen, Steve, so I could, everybody, because I can only see Ben right now. Hold on, my dog is barking. All right, thank you. Is it
Okay,
possible
we
to
good?
see? Yes, perfect. There you go. Excellent.
All right, were you able to hear what I just said? Which
I was hearing you fine, even over my dog barking, so I
Okay.
apologize for that.
Great. But, first of all, Madam Mayor, I just wanted to say that, negotiating with the city manager and with the attorney, we do a lot of these negotiations, and the level of reasonableness that the city has shown Comcast, their willingness to sit down and try to get to a deal. I would say you have a top-notch, representation of the city, and I just want to let the residents know that they are well represented and very impressive. As far as the standard and scope of today's proceedings, obviously we're going to hear from the general public if they'd like to add comment, but there's also a standard of measurement for whether we are technically able to run a system in the city, which I would say we are, because we have 6,500 franchises throughout the United States. That's in 39 states in the District of Columbia. We have the financial wherewithal to actually build, own, operate, maintain a system. I would say, yes, we have a very healthy balance sheet. I don't know what the close at Wall Street was today, but we're over $250 billion in market cap. So I think we can check that standard. And then there's the legal right to use the public right of way to have a cable system in the city. And as I said prior, we have 15 franchises in the state of Maine. Within the greater Boston region, which you would be a part of, you would be number 311 communities. So we do have that is given to us through the franchise. I always say this, and I mean this. It's not an entitlement for us to get to use the public right of way. It's a privilege. That privilege is granted to us through and by us from the city, and that's through the franchise proposal that we've laid before you. So, without saying more than I have, I'd like to either hear from the general public, ascertain what it is they believe their cable-related needs are, and obviously answer questions that either the city council has, the mayor, city manager Buck, or attorney Plant. So thank you for your time.
Thank you. Are there any counselors that have any questions that they'd like to ask? And Larissa, you're going to have, okay, I see Counselor Tuttle has his hand up, and Counselor Tuttle will go first.
Mr. Kelly, welcome to Sanford. I guess the question, my first, is what will be the cost to local residents to be part of Comcast, and particularly for those of low income and senior citizens, some type of discount?
Sure. I don't have any of the pricing. I don't have a rate card because we haven't actually done any business in the city. Brian Christensen, my colleague, who's also on this call, I don't know if we're going to be using a similar rate card to, say, Rochester, New Hampshire, or a community that is closer to a contiguous to Sanford. So I don't have that to review this evening. We have a wonderful discount program, but it's not on the cable video side. It's on the broadband side, and I really can't speak to broadband tonight because this is a cable television license hearing. But I certainly, for informational purposes afterwards, council could provide that information to them.
Well, my last question would be that I feel it's very important that there be a local presence in the city. I can remember when cable TV first came here, and I was right around the corner from City Hall, and people knew where to go and who to talk to. And at the time, I was a selectman, and I knew everybody by their first name. And I know that we've progressed to the point where we've lost local contact, but if we could negotiate a local presence, at least from my perspective, would be a good thing to do. Mr. Kelly.
No, I completely understand. We're a large company, but we are very local. Brian and I are, we're here for you. And as our construction crews roll out our network throughout the city, you'll get to meet a lot of them and our technicians and folks that will be visiting homes. So we'd like to keep that local flavor as well.
Councilor Lanigan?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I just had a question about the 5% fee, the franchise fee. It's under my understanding in August 1st of 2019, the FCC kind of stated that any the PEG access channels actually have to get a monetary value put to them, and that goes towards the cap for the franchise fee for that 5%. Is that true? And if so, I don't see that stated in the contract because it says that it's included. I just want to make sure that we're following along with what's allowed.
Yeah, no, that's the 621 order, and the value, fair market value of the PEG channels was not contemplated in that order. And that order is, I believe, being litigated at the federal level right now. So that, to answer your question, no, the PEG channel value will not be offset in your franchise fees.
Currently, but if it changes, should just where we're negotiating, should we set a value in here just in case so there's no surprises, or I just don't know.
I think it was so, Council, I think it was so difficult to come up with a fair market value for those that it wasn't even contemplated in this 621 order. And honestly, I don't know if it ever will be.
Do you have any other questions, Councilor Lanigan? And we can let our attorney try to answer those questions. I do see that Councilor Stackpole has his hand up. Go ahead, Councilor Stackpole.
Yeah, I just have a couple of questions. I just want to reaffirm, I understand that some funds are going to be made available for the PEG channels at $12,000 per year. Is that correct?
Yes, Councilor.
Okay. So again, in reviewing what we heard about the contract in executive session, are we as a community, are we going to be able to reach every home? And I hear what you just said about the internet, but are we going to be able to reach every home that wants to be connected to cable TV? And I'm going to sneak in there the same connection where probably can be used for internet. Are we going to be able to reach every home that wants to be connected in the city of Sanford?
So we provided and we will provide a map as an exhibit, the franchise, which will show where we will be built out to. I can't guarantee that every home in the cities we're going to reach. For instance, if there's one that's 2 miles away from the end of our plant, we probably won't get to that. But since we're rolling out brand new system, we already have resources in the city, we will get to places that otherwise, if we had built 20 years ago, right, we'll get to those because we will already have the resources in the city. We provided the city manager and attorney plant with proprietary and confidential. We provided them with a map that will really show you exactly where we're going. Because there's an incumbent provider in town, we're not going to disclose that information for obvious reasons.
Okay, and more of a technical question here. What kind of cable? And I'm thinking, copper or fiber. Are you going to string on the poles? And what's going to come into subscribers' houses? Same question.
Yeah, we'll build it's an HFC, hybrid fiber coax system. That's all the systems we run throughout the United States. It'll be an 860, at the minimum, an 860 system, which has got a lot of bandwidth. I know we're just talking about television, but even television, you need bandwidth to run your HD, 4K, and all sorts of other channels. It'll be mostly fiber backbone on your main streets. And if we really want to get technical, it's a node +2. But we're taking the passives out. The system will only have 2 amplifiers on a run versus 5, right? So we're removing a lot of the noise element, and that's because we're pushing the nodes closer to the curb, the home. So we're getting those closer and closer. So your fiber components either equal to or will have more fiber in the city serving the residents.
Okay, and so I sign up for your service, assuming you have to run another piece of fiber or another piece of transmission stuff from the pole to my house. What's that going to be made of?
That'll probably be coax.
Okay.
That'll be coax. They're easy. Good news about coax is if you have a storm, we can repair them in no time.
Yep.
And
Okay.
it's short to run too. So.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any other counselors who have questions? Okay, I can't see the whole screen, Larissa. I see a Sean Gilnett. Now, is that somebody from, is that a citizen? Sean,
Yes, ma'am.
are you,
Just a resident.
okay, Sean, do you mind putting your video on, please, and telling us where you live? And then I'll be glad to let you speak, and happy to.
Sure.
Thank you.
I live in Springvale. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to speak. I just
Go
had a
ahead.
question about the infrastructure that was being spoken about. Is this the same shared medium that we have experienced with the existing cable company that we have now?
Hey, if that's your question, go ahead and answer it, sir.
Is that to me?
Yeah,
Yes, go ahead.
Is it the same type of shared medium?
So I don't know what the incumbent has right now. I can tell you that we're using the next generation state-of-the-art system. As I kind of explained earlier, we're taking a lot of the actives, which are the amplifiers, out of the system, which cause noise, backfeed, and
Yeah.
So that
it's a great explanation. I loved it.
yeah. So
no, I only I have a past history with the existing cable company,
okay.
and I have also worked for a couple of other local ISPs in the area, and I'm just looking to understand more about the user experience that we can look forward to. You know, like the existing cable company has this, they don't have an ability to offer us symmetrical services. In today's day, while we're all quarantined, a lot of upstream bandwidth is being consumed at my home, and I can only have so many videos going at one time when we're streaming out to the internet, and I need that more more upload bandwidth to be able to provide multiple streams. So I was kind of looking forward to that symmetrical type of service and the direct, like a fiber network.
Right. Yeah. So I really can't talk about broadband, but for informational purposes, we're running DOCSIS 3.1, and right now we're trialing DOCSIS 4.0, which will give you multiplex, synchronous, symmetrical speeds. We don't have it there yet, but I mean, we're up over 1.25, and our wireless gateways throughput is the fastest. It's faster than any providers right now.
And what is the upload stream?
I don't have that in front of me right now, Sean.
Okay. All right.
So Tim, thanks for that information, because I have to tell you that I didn't understand any of it. So I don't know that I have to be, but I feel like I have a lot to learn. Are there any other counselors who have any questions? Any other members of the public? And Ben, did you have anything that you thought we might need to clarify or add to the public hearing?
I did have a second part to that, ma'am, if I could.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sean.
I was actually hoping that they might be able to help us reach to further the plant that they currently exist, and reach some of the places that currently don't have any access. We had a lot of folks coming from some of the side skirts of town to the local schools to get internet, to turn into work, to turn in homework assignments because they didn't have broadband services at home, things like that. So I was kind of hoping to see us reach a little further out towards the edge of our towns as well. Is that something that was planned of? Is that part of this project, or?
So I don't have the mapping. Yeah, I don't have the mapping in front of me, so I don't know the particular area. And just, by the way, it just popped into my head about your symmetrical question. We do have a 2 gig by 2 gig symmetrical, if you want to subscribe to that. We do have it.
That is awesome. That is great to know.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Any other questions, Sean, before I go to anybody else?
I just think we're all lucky Sean showed up to ask good questions.
Well, I don't know. He asked some good questions, but he seemed happy, so I think that's probably a good thing. So, Ben Plant, do you have anything else that you think we need to add before we?
Yeah, I mean, maybe just to address Councilor Lanigan's earlier point. My understanding of that 621 order is that basically the FCC determined that there are certain kinds of in-kind non-monetary contributions that count against the franchise fee. For instance, money that Comcast would provide for like capital access purposes for PEG access channels is not something that counts against the franchise fee. However, there are other things related to operation of PEG access channels that would, for instance, count against the franchise fee. But I do agree with Tim's assessment of the 621 order generally.
Thank you, Ben. All right. Anybody else have anything that they'd like to say? Maura, you keep popping up. Are you?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I had a question from the public on my text messaging. It's from Kendra Williams. She had two questions. WSSR connection, as far as you know, I don't know. We had something written in there, I know, about PEG stations, and that would probably include the ability to see how, if we could get something different for WSSR, I guess, or work with WSSR to be on television on Comcast as well as Atlantic. And the other question I don't think I should ask.
Well,
anyway, so the PEG stations could be used by WSSR to make sure to stream on Comcast, correct? So that people would have our meetings, et cetera, whether they're on Comcast, Atlantic, or somewhere else. Yes? That was the question.
Is WSSR the local access provider in the city?
Yes, it is. It's our television station run out of the high school. So it serves the community and the school.
And I see a shake. I mean, yes, if this is the access provider, we would that channel.
That's what I thought too.
Yep.
That's what I thought as well.
I think some of the other questions that some of us have gotten, I apologize for my dog. For some reason, this is the time of night. Hang on one second. I'd have to.
He's going to talk. You might have to put him on video, Mayor.
No, she's going to have to go in her little spot where she doesn't do this. She's doing this on purpose because she wants to go to bed. So I apologize to the whole world that my dog wants to go to bed. And I think it's like, what time? 7 o'clock. Well, there you go. 7 o'clock every night. And she doesn't want to go upstairs by herself. So I apologize. So I'm trying to think what I wanted to. Oh, I think, Tim, if you could just make clear that you are not purchasing another company. You are coming in and building out. Just reiterate that, because I think there's some misunderstanding among the general public about what this means for Sanford.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes you take these things for granted. No, we're seeking advice from the city so that we can come in, use the public right of way to deploy a brand new state-of-the-art cable television network at our own cost. It's going to be millions of dollars of investment to the city to provide what we'd call meaningful competition with the incumbent.
I think that's pretty clear. Thank you. Now, if there is is there anyone else to speak in favor?
I think Steve's got a comment.
Steve, okay. Go ahead, Steve.
So, I apologize. As the host, I cannot raise my hand. I don't have that function. So I do want to lend the input into this, that I will echo that the negotiations on this franchise agreement, although it's a large, extensive, and complex document, have been very enjoyable to go through. Say that Comcast has the city's interest in mind as well as that of their line of business. I'd also note that it's very favorable for the city that we have We had our former incumbent of MetroCast that was bought by Atlantic Broadband, and Atlantic Broadband came in and increased the level of services that were available on that pre-existing network, and we now have a competitive environment whereby I would anticipate a second franchise to be granted by the city by May 18th, whereby a second provider will come in and create a very competitive environment in the cable TV, as well as the other services that are typically available on cable TV system, such as ISP provisions for broadband, voice over IP provisions, and such under that. So it's a very favorable development for the city, continue to negotiate along those lines. And the negotiations have spent an extensive amount of time around the PEG channels. I just want the public to know that the city, we are very, very aware of the importance of the PEG channels that we currently have and the value of the PEG channels in the future that Comcast is making part of this agreement to get those off the ground and running as soon as practicable. So there is a great level of importance on that. It will originate from the high school, as the current PEG channels do, and allow us to simulcast across all of those PEG channels on 2 different systems, as well as YouTube channel, as well as town hall streaming, so we can reach as much of the public as physically possible as the city sets itself up post-pandemic to do hybrid meetings, live meetings in the council chambers, while simulcasting those across the multiple mediums. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone else to speak in favor? Is there anyone to speak against? I'm not going to close the public hearing tonight. Well, I'm going to hold it open until May 18th, pending final review of the agreement. So I will go on to the next item on the agenda. Thank you, gentlemen, for all the information you provided today.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, everyone.
I'll wait, Steve, if you want to share the screen again with the agenda. Thank you. Okay, but now I can only see that. I can't see anybody on the side here. There's something. Can't see any counselors except for Councilor Hurley.
You have to put your people on the top. I put my people on the top.
No, I'm.
Can you do that, Avery?
Yeah, it's always been. I'm in side by side. I'm in the right mode. I haven't changed anything. It's just.
If you switch from speaker view, switch it to gallery view, and you'll be able to see everybody.
I gotcha. Thank you. I don't know what happened. Okay, the consent agenda 21-216-01. Order to approve the following license requests and to authorize the city clerk to sign on behalf of the council. Are there any comments or objections? Seeing none, the consent agenda is approved. Old business, there is nothing. 21-223-01, order to authorize the city manager to enter into a proposed cable television franchise agreement between the City of Sanford and Comcast of Maine, New Hampshire, Inc., pursuant to City Code Chapter subsection 96-4. I will look for a motion to table until the May 18th meeting.
Make a motion, we table.
There is a motion by Councilor Tuttle to table. Is there a second?
Second.
I think that second was Councilor Stackpole got in there first. There is no discussion on a tabling motion. I will take the roll. Call the roll. Councilor Martell.
Yes.
Councilor Hanselman.
Yes.
Councilor Tuttle.
Yes.
Councilor Stackpole.
Yes.
Councilor Lanigan.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Herlihy.
Yes.
And I'm also a yes. That is unanimous vote. Next item on the agenda, 21-213-01, order to approve the purchase of the Power DMS system for the Sanford Police Department in the amount of $7,924.25 annually. I'm going to wait to ask for a motion. In reviewing our rules of procedure, I am going to ask for the explanation first, and then I will ask for a motion. So, Steve, who is going to be presenting this evening?
Deputy Chief Craig Anderson is going to present on this.
I will turn it over to him then. It's all yours, Deputy Chief.
Oh, good evening, everyone. As we met with the Public Safety Committee on this agenda item a couple weeks ago, I believe it was, essentially what we're asking for is to approve the purchase of this Power DMS, which will allow us to manage our policies better, more efficiently, and more importantly, pursue accreditation through MCOPA, or the Maine Chiefs of Police Association, with EMLI, which is the Maine Law Enforcement Accreditation Program. This software will allow us to present our training as well as manage our policy and allow us to be a little more visible to the public, transparent to the public, that is. One of the advantages to the accreditation program is the city will save 15% on our police professional liability coverage, and that equates to currently at about $3,300. Now, as our police liability coverage increases in cost, the 15% will certainly will give us better value over the long term. So what we're asking for is the ability to spend $7,900, $7,974 on this program, and we'll take that out of our operating. We'll take that out of our own funds after July, and then subsequent years we would need to budget for this in our contract services. That's pretty much where we're at.
Thank you, Deputy Chief. Prior to council beginning discussion, I will ask for a motion to approve or to discuss, whichever.
I make a motion to approve.
All right, a motion by Councillor Herlihy to approve. Is there a second?
I'd second that.
Second by Councillor Hanselman. All right, discussion. Any questions for the Deputy Chief? We did discuss this at the Property Subcommittee. I reported it on it 2 weeks ago, and it was supported with approval, but open to any kind of discussion and questions. Councillor Hanselman, you have a question.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention to me that part of the benefit, I think, to this investment is what you have up right now, actually, that we can easily access and provide public documentation, and also have a much easier access to database in terms of just seeing what's going on within our police department. So it seems like there's a lot of benefits relative to the investment or cost. I just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any other questions? Any other
This is Jonathan. Quick question.
Councillor Martel, go ahead and ask your question.
Thank you. So this is a one-time request for this year, and then this is a reoccurring yearly sort of renewal for software license type of thing?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. And is that expected to be about the same cost, or go up every year? Or?
Well, currently that's what the cost is. We haven't learned any information that it is going to increase anytime soon. Of course, we can't predict. I mean, if they come up with a cost that is prohibitive for us, then we'll readdress it. But I think at this stage, we can certainly work with what they're giving us.
Okay, thank you.
And Deputy Chief, could you explain, just go a little deeper into that, because what you're paying for is the updates and the things that keep it current, so that you don't end up with a system that has to be totally overhauled in a number of years because you haven't been able to do those updates. So I think that was one of the things that the subcommittee delved into, which was that that's what you're paying for those updates and to keep everything current. Correct?
That is correct.
Okay, Councillor Lanigan, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. So I know a year or two ago, I think it was actually 2 years ago, we approved some program for people to contact the police and file police reports. Has the implementation of that program gone into place?
It was approved, and we had to wait until our Justice Assistant Grant was reprogrammed through Washington. And during the COVID shutdown, of course, everything got put on the back burner. We were advised, I believe it was last month, that was approved to reprogram that particular grant. Contacted LexisNexis, which is the proprietor of the online reporting system, and let them know that we were good to go. They've contacted our RMS, which is our records management system, IMC, and they're working behind the scenes to make sure that the two companies communicate and they've got the background they need to bring it up online. Once they finish what they're doing, it will be an implementation period of, over the course of several months before it's actually up and running.
So do you feel that this is too much for the department to be implementing these two new programs once that does come in? Or I just want to make sure that we're not paying for this too early. That's my only question. It's a great program.
Yeah, no, we're going to be fine with this because Deputy Chief Stroud is going to take over this MLEAP, which is Maine Law Enforcement Accreditation Program. In this particular program, this is the first place we're going to utilize it. Once we achieve accreditation through Maine Law Enforcement Accreditation Program, sponsored by the Maine Chiefs of Police, then we will start to realize that 15% savings on our liability insurance, and so that's a direct savings or cost savings back to the public, which we think is important. So while Deputy Chief Stroud is working on MLEAP, Lieutenant Gagne of the Criminal Investigation Division has been tasked with implementing or being on the ground level of implementing the online reporting system. So we definitely can handle both at the same time without a problem.
Awesome. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I will call the roll. Councilor Martell.
Yes.
Councilor Hanselman.
Yes.
Councilor Tuttle.
Yes.
Councilor Stackpole.
Yes.
Councilor Lanigan.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Herlihy.
Yes.
And I am also a yes. That is a unanimous vote. Thank you. The 18-331-01, order to appoint Jamie Cole, Jeannie Wood, Aaron Lederer, and Alex Hoare as City of Stamford Code Enforcement Officers, and appoint Jamie Cole as local plumbing inspector, and appoint Jeannie Wood, Aaron Lederer, and Alex Hoare as alternate plumbing inspectors for a period beginning on July 1, 2021, and ending June 30th, 2022. Is there somebody that's going to explain this, Steve?
You're muted, Steve.
All right, too many elements going on here. Pursuant to the statute that's attached in your packet, this is an annual appointment whereby the municipal officers must so appoint the code enforcement officers, must also appoint your local plumbing inspectors. And so this would serve the purpose, the annual appointment thereof. There's been no issues with any of our code enforcement officers. Very proud of the work that they're doing there. Jamie Cole is our lead code enforcement officer now, has done an exceptional job assembling this new team of code enforcement officers that we have. Even during COVID, the inspections have continued and ongoing, and I marvel at the amount of inspection work that they're doing. Even during this COVID period, we are at record numbers of permits that are ongoing. I just want to extend my appreciation to the department and so recommend their annual appointment.
Thank you, Steve. Before we have any council discussion or comments, can I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
That is a motion by Councilor Lanigan. Is there a second?
Second.
By Councilor Deputy Mayor Herlihy. Discussion by the council or comments? Nice. I don't see any hands up, so I will call roll. Councilor Martell.
Yes.
Councilor Hanselman.
Yes.
Councilor Tuttle.
Yes.
Councilor Stackpole.
Yes.
Councilor Lanigan.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Herlihy.
Yes.
And I am also a yes. That is a unanimous vote. 18-338-01, order to appoint Jeannie Wood and Aaron Lederer as constables for a period beginning July 1, 2021, and ending June 30th, 2022, and that this appointment is empowered to enforce civil violations of city code, to wit, the applicable sections of chapters 90, 128, 149, 178, 183, 209, 220, 226, 265, 270, 275, 280, and any amendments to applicable city code or any applicable emergency ordinances that have been approved and adopted by council order, and that this appointment is empowered to serve civil summons for violations of city code, and that this appointment is empowered to serve all legal process allowed under state law on behalf of and at the request of the City of Sanford, Sanford Land Bank Authority, and the Sanford Housing Authority, and that this appointment does not have any of the powers of a special police officer pursuant to 30A MRSA subsection 2672, except those powers specifically enumerated in this order, and that this appointment shall not wear a uniform or cap in a color or style similar to that worn by regular police officers of the city, and that this appointment is not allowed to carry a firearm, concealed or unconcealed, in the performance of duties or to make arrests. Okay, is there any presentation, Steve, that's needed before I ask for a motion?
I do not believe so. We make sure that the order is as extensive as it is, so the general public understands that pursuant to 30A, subsection 2672, you are so empowering these code officers to allow them to serve civil summons for the violations pursuant to city code, but they are not constables in the perfection as far as a police officer is concerned. Their authority under the statutes is confined to what's contained within the order that we've had since the land bank has been formed, and Ms. Wood and Mr. Lederer have been hired with a specific concentration on the land bank efforts and their ability to continue to serve civil summons should the need arise.
Thank you. I'll have a motion. I'll take a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Oh, I think Councilor Lanigan got that first. The motion is by Councilor Lanigan. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
All right, Councilor Hanselman got that second. So, any discussion by the council? Then I will, did I miss something? Nope, I'll call the roll.
I had a quick question.
Oh.
This is people that are currently serving in these positions, correct? This is just a continuation.
Yes.
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
All right, Councilor Martell,
Yes.
Councilor Hanselman,
Yes.
Councilor Tuttle,
Yes.
Councilor Stackpole,
Yes.
Councilor Lanigan,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Herlihy,
Yes.
and I am also a yes. That is unanimous. Okay. 21-219-01, and I have a different motion to read that I'm going to read in its entirety, just because it needed to be correct. So it was not exactly, it was sent to you later, very late today, to replace what was on the original agenda. Voted by the City Council, this is 21-219-01, voted by the City Council for the City of Sanford, Maine as follows. 1, that a capital acquisition project, the project consisting of the lease of a 2022 Pierce Enforcer pumper truck is hereby approved. And number 2, that the financing for the project in the principal amount of up to $643,919 is awarded to PNC Equipment Finance with terms consistent with the proposal submitted hereto dated May 4th, 2021, entitled Tax Exempt Lease Purchase at an interest rate of 2.83%, subject to annual appropriation. And number 3, that the city manager and treasurer of the city are hereby authorized to, each individually in the event the other is unavailable, execute the lease purchase agreement and all other documents reasonably necessary to accomplish the purpose of this vote as the documents may require. And number 4, that the City Council hereby confirms its determination that the term of the lease does not exceed 120% of the economic life of the project. And number 5, that said lease is hereby designated a bank qualified tax exempt obligation of the city for the 2021 calendar year under the provisions of Section 265B3 of the Internal Revenue Code of 1986 as amended. Steve, can you just tell us why this is on the agenda the way it is tonight? And then I will ask for a motion.
Yes, so previously the city council had voted and authorized the purchase of the fire truck as so described. Once that authorization was granted, we then turned that over for the capital acquisition via the lease to our attorney, Shauna Mueller, who serves for all elements for the matter of finance and or lease and or bonding for the city. As our bond counsel, Attorney Mueller, then goes through the legal process to ensure that it is bank qualified, that the voted process by the city council to acquire this is correct, that the lease has been implemented. She reviews all of the terms and conditions in the lease to ensure that the city's interests are well protected in that, then gives us this legal opinion and then provides the necessary motion to satisfy all elements of the law. That is the motion that's before you this evening.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
That is a motion by Councillor Lanigan. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councillor Martell. Is there discussion by the council? Seeing no discussion or questions, I will call the roll. Councillor Martell?
Yes.
Councillor Hanselman?
Yes.
Councillor Tuttle?
Yes.
Councillor Stackpole?
Yes.
Councillor Lanigan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Herlihy?
Yes.
And I am also a yes. That is a unanimous vote. Okay. 21-229-01, order to appoint Springvale resident Paul Demers and Sanford resident Jacob Crosby to fill 2 board member vacancies on the Board of Appeals for terms ending December 31st, 2023, pursuant to section 205.1 of the Sanford City Charter. Steve, do you want to present on this item?
Yes, so these are 2 individuals that have responded for the request for appointment to the Board of Appeals. I know Mr. Demers has served there previously, very experienced. I'm less familiar with Jacob Crosby, but all of his application materials are in there before the City Council. I believe this would round out and complete our Board of Appeals. That would be fully filled. It would be for 3-year terms.
Thank you, Steve. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved, Madam Mayor.
A motion by Councillor Tuttle. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councillor Martell, and I will just add that the appointment subcommittee did review these applications. Are there any other questions or comments by the council? Seeing none, I will call the roll. Councillor Martell. Oh, sorry, Councillor Tuttle. I almost missed your hand up there. Go ahead.
Yeah, I've known Paul Demers all his life, and he has been an asset and will continue to be, Madam Mayor.
Thank you for that, Councillor Tuttle. Okay, I will call the roll now. Councillor Martell?
Yes.
Councillor Hanselman?
Yes.
Councillor Tuttle?
Yes.
Councillor Stackpole?
Yes.
Councillor Lanigan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Herlihy?
Yes.
And I'm also a yes. That is a unanimous vote. 21-230-01, order to appoint Springvale resident Arlene Townsend to the position of tenant representative on the Sanford Housing Authority Board of Commissioners to fill an unexpired term ending December 31st, 2022, pursuant to section 205.1 of the Sanford City Charter. Steve, do you want to just present on this, or?
I think it's self-explanatory as was read. The position became vacated. It currently is vacated. The Housing Authority solicited persons interested. Again, this is the tenant representative, so they have to be a tenant of within the Housing Authority's jurisdiction, one of their buildings. And the information has been so provided as far as the background on Ms. Townsend.
Thank you, Steve. Is there a motion to approve? Oh, sorry, Councillor Tuttle, go ahead.
Yeah, who
Can you
is
just
she
wait till we have the
replacing?
motion? Can I wait till we have the motion?
I'll make that motion, Madam Mayor, yes.
All right, thank you, Councillor Tuttle. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
Second by Deputy Mayor Herlihy. Okay, we have a motion on the table and a second. Councillor Tuttle, you have a question or comment?
Well, who is she replacing, Stephen?
Oh, nobody.
I can answer that.
Hey, let Larissa, this is, something occurred. So Larissa, go ahead.
Lillian McDonald was appointed last year as the tenant representative, and unfortunately she passed away. I believe it was in January of this year. That vacancy, that reason.
Okay.
Arlene Townsend is a tenant that is well known to Diane Gary at the Housing Authority, and she felt that she would be excellent representative.
Thank you, Larissa. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, I will call the roll. Councillor Martell.
Yes.
Councillor Hanselman.
Yes.
Councillor Tuttle.
Yes.
Councillor Stackpole.
Yes.
Councillor Lanigan.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Herlihy.
Yeah.
And I am also a yes, so that motion passes. And thank you to these people who volunteered to serve on these boards. We couldn't do it without all of them. Okay, 21-224-01, order to vote on whether to amend the Sanford Regional Economic Growth Council Memorandum of Understanding to reduce the Growth Council Corporation's members from 3 to 2 pursuant to a resolution executed by the Sanford Regional Economic Growth Council Board on April 20th, 2021, and pursuant to the Articles of Incorporation for the corporation. I will turn this over to Steve for some explanation before I ask for a motion.
Yes, so the City Council has been in discussions with as far as the realignment and or reformation of the Sanford Regional Economic Growth Council and contemplating the best ways to affect that. Pursuant to that process, the recognition is that the city is one of 3 members to the current corporation, which is the 501c6, that is the Sanford Regional Economic Growth Council. The current 3 members are the City of Sanford, Industrial Development Corporation, and the Sanford Chamber of Commerce. Pursuant to the bylaws for the Articles of Incorporation for the corporation, the 501c6, if the membership is to change, then the members, each of the requisite members, again, the city, the IDC, and the chamber, each of their respective boards must so vote as far as the change of that membership. If any 2 of the 3 members vote to eliminate one of the members, then the motion carries and the action is perfected. So pursuant to this, the resolution that was submitted by the Growth Council to the City Council, it is seeking to essentially vote change to membership to be only that of the IDC and the City Council, the City of Sanford.
Okay, I will ask for a motion before the council begins discussion. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
That is a motion by Councillor Martell. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Second by Deputy Mayor Herlihy. Discussion by the council? I don't see anybody's hands up, so I will call the roll. Councillor Martell.
Yes.
Councillor Hanselman.
Yes.
Councillor Tuttle.
Yes.
Councillor Stackpole.
Yes.
Councillor Lanigan.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Herlihy.
Yes.
And I am also a yes. That is a unanimous vote.
Once again, Madam Mayor, I think it's worth at least just stating that this was presented to us in executive session. That's why there's not a lot of discussion on the council's part for this. Our questions were already answered, basically.
Thank you, Councillor Stackpole. Okay, let's see, 21-225-01. Discussion on proposed amendments to the City Council Rules of Procedure. And I will just say that this is a matter, according to the rules of procedure, for discussion only tonight. It cannot be voted on regardless. By the rules that we currently have, any changes are discussed at one meeting and then not voted on until the next meeting. So, Steve, can you just share, and if you want to present, you can present, or I can just discuss where we got to this point, that some of these are recommendations that came out of the agreement that we read last week, and recommendations by the attorney on how we could clarify. So this is all for discussion, and I think we should just start, if it's okay with you, Steve, with just the first page, so that I can, because I did make some changes on the first page, proposed changes. Do you have anything
on the
you want to
first
say
page,
Go ahead,
the first
Steve,
red line is changing the adjournment time from 10 p.m. to 9:30 p.m.
And can I say why we did this? Because we used to have, first of all, when both the deputy mayor and I were on the original town council, we had many meetings that went to 11 o'clock. So this was one of the things on the rules of procedure that we put at 10, but we didn't start till 7. And now that we start pretty much around 6 o'clock, it just seemed that there was no need to have to go that late. So my proposal is that we change this to 9:30, requires still the same unanimous vote to go past 9:30. If we were still starting at 7, I wouldn't even suggest it. But honestly, having had a number of meetings that have gone till 10 o'clock, they seem a little long. And I don't think a lot of good work gets done once you pass that 3-hour mark. Just my opinion. So open for discussion. If anybody, I mean, we'll be voting on these, not this week, but I'd really like to hear what everyone has to say.
So I'd just like to chime in.
Go ahead, Councilor Martell.
Thank you. Yeah, like you said, after everybody hits that 3-hour mark, I think it gets pretty difficult to make good progress. So I would suggest maybe even 9 o'clock makes a little more sense. Especially considering we do have a lot of times the executive session beforehand as well.
Well, I wanted to put that in there, and then I thought about it and said, well, maybe that was asking a little too much. I'd love to hear what everybody else has.
I have no problem going with 9 o'clock. I think having hard deadlines like that can help run meetings more efficiently and keep everybody on task and rather short-winded and to the point. So I would have no problem going with 9 o'clock.
I agree with my fellow councilors. I actually think that if it was really important, I don't think it would be awfully political of us not to vote to extend beyond 9 o'clock to finish the work.
Right. Well, Madam Mayor, I'd be in favor of making it 7, right, Maura?
No.
I don't think you'll win that vote.
6:15 sounds better, John.
Gotta be fair. We gotta be fair and make sure we get our work done.
I don't have a problem. I originally wanted to make it 9 o'clock because I thought that was consistent with a start time of 6, which we usually start at 6. I'm committed to trying to make those executive sessions, try to keep my eye on the clock and fit into that and not run over. So unless somebody has an objection, I'm willing to say let's try to approve a 9 p.m. end time.
Yeah.
I don't hear anybody objecting to that. Okay. And why don't you go on, Steve, to the next.
Is it all the way down to section 33?
Yeah, I think so.
Page 9.
Madam Mayor, are we going to back up if there were questions on other sections?
Oh, absolutely. You want to go through each page?
No, I just had a question in section, and more a question, but relative to section 6. So I don't know if you want to circle back or.
Nope. Yep. No, let's go right back. I really didn't. Actually, I'm sorry. I really planned to go through it page by page to see if anybody had anything on there. So, yeah. So that would be page 2 for me, but section 6.
Yes,
and it's
It's more a question. I love the incorporation of video telephony, if I'm saying that correctly, in workshops. But my question is, do we have the technology from the CARES funds to make that possible in city manager's conference room, or will that force us to have workshops in council chambers? Because I know sometimes the chambers aren't available for some reason. Does that question make sense?
Well, currently we're setting all of the equipment up to do that from the council chambers for the multimedia aspect. I could facilitate a Zoom conference from the conference room. That is easily done.
Okay.
But the video telephony, and I apologize, I'm the one that stuck that term, and I had to look it up. That's the terminology. Other than saying Zoom.
Telephony.
Right.
Telephony.
Okay. Well, I didn't want to use
potato. Yeah. Telephony.
Anyway, so by putting that in there, this goes to being able to conduct the hybrid meetings where you have the live council meeting taking place, doing the multicast, soon to be over, 2 different cable TV franchises in the PEG channels, the YouTube channel, the live streaming channel, and having that all recorded as well. So I wouldn't be able to do all of those same levels because all of the switching equipment that's going to take all of that, push it to the high school, which is the point of broadcast and such, is only being set up in the council chambers.
And could I make 2 comments about that, Steve? Number 1, workshops are still public meetings. So I'm anticipating that we would still want to do that in the chamber if it was available. The legislature is looking at all of the legislation around public meetings and access and being able to continue some of these aspects. And that legislation is not complete yet. I read a lot of the bills, listened to some of the public hearings. I really don't know, maybe Councilor Tuttle has more insight in what they're going to do, but I think that were we to want to have a workshop that we couldn't have in the chambers, I'm hoping that we would have the possibility of doing that workshop as a Zoom meeting so that the public would still be able to, we might have to use the same kind of format for a workshop. But I'm just telling you that as long as I'm the mayor, that those meetings will be held in public, not in the conference room, because I think the conference room is not as conducive to the kind of public input or public watching and transparency that I would like to have for all workshops. So that's just my comment on that. And so I'm not so worried that the conference room is set up for that. I don't think we're going to have to use it, at least while I'm around.
One of the major improvements will be, currently we have to have staff operating WSSR TV, the location, in order to achieve this multicast. We're setting the system up to have the equipment to be able to, quote unquote, push the easy button, and it goes to all of the various mediums simultaneously.
So my real question was, I guess, are we set up to accomplish Section 6? And it sounds like we are, especially in council chambers and then potentially in other locations as down the road. But so the answer is we can accomplish it. That was my question. So thank you.
And they're doing this at the high school as well, because that's how the school committee meetings are running. And they're not in the chambers. They're over at I'm not sure which cafeteria. They're in the smaller cafeteria. I mean, it's not an optimal situation, in my opinion, for viewing, but it accomplishes the public being able to participate. Are there anything else on this page any councilors have on page 2 they think we should address? These are things that we worked on pretty recently, the rules for virtual public meetings and workshops. We may have to revisit these once the legislation comes down from Augusta. Presentation of materials, public comment, that's all in relation to Zoom. And then page 4, we go into the quorum, and that is quorum and agendas. and how meetings are conducted. And I would just like to say that if you look back on the date, January 4th, 2005 are the rules in order. I know we had them even previous to that, didn't we, Councilor Hurley?
Yeah, we did. Well, 2005, Anne Marie, we got it. Yeah, we would have written them.
Right.
No, we got elected in 2004.
So these are the first.
So these are the first ones, 2005. Yep.
We did them before we took office. We actually spent a whole day going over these with many people.
We had so much fun. It was incredible.
Yeah. So anything on the agenda? We kind of reviewed this and we decided everything looks like it's okay. If anybody has a comment, just step in and just say so if you want to stop and discuss a particular section. The rest is just pretty much all kind of Robert's rules, but not specified rules. Emergency orders, items for meetings, mayor to be the presiding officer, or the deputy mayor. Introduction of items on the agenda, and this was where when we were reviewing this, we saw, okay, item A, this is on section 22.
I just want to, Steve, if you could stop, just back up for a little bit.
Yep.
Just answer to a question that we had.
All about tabling?
Table, agenda items, table items will be under old business at the next regular meeting, blah, blah, blah. So.
Unless they voted to postpone the matter to a later date certain. We did not give a later date certain, but we did say we were going to do it at a later.
I'm just making the observation. That's all.
As we're editing this, can we get rid of the oh my gosh, my brain's not working. I apologize. The little things hanging there after certain.
Which ones?
Sorry, in section 14, there's that date certain, and then there's the little quotes sitting there for some reason.
Oh yeah. Larissa's been working really hard on these. You have no idea what she's had to do to clean these up, because I think over the years, all they did was put in different fonts in different places and stick it in and try to make it work. And so she's been working really hard on it.
That's always fun.
After this round of
well, Councilor Hansel, don't feel bad. I'm like that all the time.
All right. Yes, that's good though if you notice those things, Ann, because I kind of just put all the words together. All right, so now we're on section, all right, table, keep going. Items, then emergency ordinances, items for meetings. I think I'm all set with that page on page 6. And then on the next one was where I just wanted everybody to see that the item shall be announced by the mayor as it appears on the agenda. Ordinance, order, or resolve shall be read by the mayor according to Rule 12. Issue shall be explained by the city manager or his designee, and then a motion shall be made and seconded prior to council debate. Issue shall be discussed by the council, and then the item shall be open for germane public input, and then we either vote or phone or whatever. So I just wanted you to understand, when I was reviewing it, I kind of thought that was in there, but I hadn't really, there have been an awful lot of other things that I've been kind of concentrating on. So I'm going to try to do that, unless somebody wants to change that order.
No, I think that makes sense. And, that way we don't have to vote to discuss it beforehand.
And I think that there was a time when we used to do that pretty routinely as a council. And I'm not sure when that changed. We never made a motion to approve. We always did a discussion motion and then a motion on the item. Okay, then so no questions from anybody here. Not to be debated, not to interrupt, future rules, no member to speak on behalf of the council. We didn't have any changes proposed in these areas. Section 32 is directly from the charter. And there were reasons at the time when we did this that we put that particular conflict of interest.
I'm going to just add that that's pretty much directly from state law as well. That's what we used when we wrote the charter the first time. We use state law.
Okay, I think the next place that we have any change after that is in section 33, Steve, where the email and other electronic communication only became an issue, I think, first started with emails, and then when text became a thing and whatever. So it's been amended and adjusted over the years. So we proposed that section 33, emails, the first paragraph says, emails, text messages, and other electronic communications exchanged between city councilors and or between city councilors and city staff and or city councilors and city committee or board members shall be restricted to notifications and or to general information. At no time should city councilors participate in emails, social media, text messages, and other electronic communication debates among themselves. We thought that when we were discussing this, that there were councilors who sometimes try to clarify things maybe on a social media page. I don't think that we're debating about the issues. I mean, I know that this was and Steve wasn't there for the discussion, so I'd love to hear your explanation, but we thought that this would address that issue of we are not supposed to debate each other unless we're at a meeting so convened. What do you think of the way that we put this in here, Steve, this time? Do you think it?
So, for the years that I've been here, I've not seen hardly an issue of counselors, shall I say, debating or developing work product outside of the regular meeting. So, I never see email exchanges out there developing positions and such under that. So, been a very strong adherence to that. I do not go to certain social media sites here in the city. Absolutely will not do that. But I have been made aware of times when councilors are giving, quote, clarification, actually debating or arguing with the people out there on social media and such under that. I think it's very hard to delineate clarification from debating the element with the person that's doing the posting or such under that. It's a very sticky wicket out there. And in that process of providing clarification, are you speaking as an individual? Are you speaking as a city councilor? Are you speaking on behalf of the position of the city council itself in providing the clarity? I think it's a very gray area that I'm always concerned about.
So this would be amongst ourselves. So that would be like potential, just for example, somebody correct me if I'm misunderstanding this. If I'm talking to, say, Councilor Lanigan about some issue back and forth on the Sanford Happening page, just for example, I think that's what this is addressing, correct? And not somebody asks me or somebody comments about the cable system that's going in, whether that's going to be new or whether it's taking over one of the other options that are available, and making a clarifying post about that. Is that a correct statement?
I think that's a correct statement.
Okay, thank you.
And I also think that the larger issue would be, let's say there's an upcoming agenda item and a counselor is trying to gain support for that agenda item before the meeting, and therefore a conversation, email, text, or other takes place. And that's basically discussing the agenda item not in public, essentially. So I know that many years ago, before I had all my gray hairs, big problem that I had with the school committee was, we met on Monday night, and every Sunday night, everybody would call everybody up and discuss everything that was on the agenda and so on and so forth. So the decisions were being made Sunday night on the phone. They weren't being made Monday evening at the public meeting. And so Mayor Mastarchio will remember, we put an end to that and coined the phrase that the public's business is done in public. I think if that's a pretty powerful little phrase there. So if you think about that for a little bit, are you, by the nature of your email or of your text, doing something that should be discussed in public, or not? And I think that trying to persuade another counselor to support or not support an agenda item, that's a conversation that needs to be done in public. Everybody needs to hear that conversation. So I just think if you can get that clear in your head, is it the public's business that you're doing? And are you, for whatever reason, not doing that in public, either because you don't want people to know, or you're trying to set something up, one positively or negatively for the meeting? Then I think that's what this, to me, that's what this addresses, particularly the words among themselves. So that's how I'm interpreting this. And I think we don't do this generally. I even, previous mayor, et cetera. I mean, we'll share information with each other via email, notifications, things like that. As a council, I haven't seen us do this, but I think it's important that we continue to not do it and not go down this slippery slope. If it's the public's business, if common sense tells you, and I know common sense can be misleading, but if common sense tells you that this is the public's business and it needs to be debated in public, then you probably shouldn't be emailing or texting other counselors to persuade them one way or the other.
Councilor Lanigan, you have your hand up. If that is a question about first section of section 33.
It is, and I guess my or for clarification, I assume that this was when we had communication with more than 3 counselors at a time, where an actual decision could be made. Meaning, like, so on an email thread that came out and said that something, let's just pick a topic, and then I hit reply all and gave my opinion, and then Deputy Mayor Hurley, he did that. That's what we're looking to avoid here, correct? It's about getting a consensus or building consensus outside of a public meeting. That's what this addresses. I don't think it speaks to individual counselors discussing policy, coming up with ideas, working together. I mean, that's what we do in subcommittee. So I just want to be clear on this.
I don't think it's, I mean, 3 would be a quorum. So,
4
or more, I'm sorry, more than 3. But I don't think that's the issue. I'm really offering my opinion right now. If I felt really strongly about an issue that was going to be on the agenda, personally, I just don't think it would be right for me to, Luke, I'll pick on you for a second, reach out to you and say, Luke, I think this is really important. I think, you should support it. And not only that, here's X, Y, Z, and so on, the reasons why. And then we enter into that conversation of, well, I could agree with this point, but I don't agree with these other points. That, to me, that's a public discussion that ought to take place at a meeting. I'm offering that as my opinion. There's no legal basis or whatever, a moral basis or whatever for it. I just think that if we're going to have conversations like that, persuasive conversations, not procedural conversations, then it probably ought to be done in public. But that, again, I'm going to say again, my opinion. So.
I'm just looking for clarity. I'm not looking at argument.
Yeah, no, I hopefully I don't sound argumentative because I'm not. I'm just, stating my thinking on it. So.
So is Bob right, or am I right on our interpretation? I guess that's where
Steve, I'm going to tell
Well,
you,
you're both right.
I think that there's always going to be some conversations that are going to have to happen. But the truth is that I think when you're having a conversation that would be better had in public.
Yeah, I think that's my point.
That's basically it. It's the people's business, and it's why I don't like to meet in conference rooms where the public doesn't feel as welcome. I mean, remember, Bob, when we used to have the school committees and they would meet in a little conference room, you can't, people didn't even want to be on television. And you have to, conversations are more difficult when you have them in public, but that's where the public deserves to see them. That is part of not having a conversation on Facebook, on social media. It is very difficult to not get drawn into those kinds of debates when people say the kinds of things they say. I will tell you that in the last 4 weeks, the only things I've posted on any kind of Facebook page other than for my friends is, 2 comments that were replying to what I thought were legitimate questions about the Comcast coming in because they had just heard about it. And it was people thinking that that Comcast was literally buying American broadband. So I wanted to just clarify that. And I didn't respond to any other comments after that. The comments that related to quality of signal and, customer service and all of those things. The end. I felt that was an okay thing to do because I thought that might direct the conversation among people into a better place. But honestly, I find social media the place that you can easily get drawn down into this dark hole that you probably don't want to be in. But if you're asking Council Lanigan if counselors are not going to have occasional conversations about things, I think that's fine. But if when you're delving into something that is more of a nature of decision making.
I know we're doing this for clarity, so that's why there's a lot of ambiguity in it. So I just wanted to try and clarify. As I draw an example from I believe you sent out an email at one point, and I replied all, and I think it was Deputy Mayor Hurley. He's like, "Hey, this isn't the spot," So because we can't have those types of discussions in that format. So I just want to be clear on what we're talking about. Each their own on what their individual conversations are with their constituents, with the other elected officials and stuff. I'm just kind of looking at this one thing. If I'm interpreting this is what that's about, is not to have those types of debate over an email string.
Steve, go ahead. You had something you wanted to add? You have something?
No, I was not in my head in agreement. I mean, I think the council's in absolutely the right spot. I think the common understanding is there. And again, in the electronic communications, as far as emails, that's what I see. There's not been any violation or any debate or development of policy utilizing that format. So,
may I just to be clear with the section 33, it also specifically talks about among ourselves. So in regards to social media, because I recognize I may not be in agreement with others on this, but I do feel like social media is an important method of communication with our community members and neighbors. And so I do try to respond as much as I can, as time allows, to questions or things that come up. I think that this section, however, is discussing that if Deputy Mayor Hurley and I disagree on a particular item, that we won't get into a debate on social media about that item. So I don't think it precludes us, frankly, from debating with a neighbor or a friend on social media, but it would preclude us from debating with each other. Do folks agree that that's what this section is saying?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, that's what to read to me. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that some of us are more comfortable having because you do it in such a nice way that I find it, you're very informative. And I don't think that you debate people. I think you just give them what you think was the real intent, maybe. And so I don't think that this would preclude that from continuing. Just my opinion. And I'm saying that I look at that as a very appropriate way to use social media. And some of us have, I think, thicker skins than others do. And so I tend to just stay away from the things where I don't want to, it's like, there's just a lot of meanness on social media at times. And I've tried to get that out of my. Anybody else have any comments on this particular paragraph that changed?
Well, Madam Mayor, that's why when I say, call me on the telephone, so if you insult me, I can insult you back.
Councilor Tuttle. All right, we didn't have any changes to the official city social media presence or the elected officials. The next changes are the areas that the attorney thought should be clarified. And let's go through them. Okay, individual elected officials should understand that even when they are engaging in off-duty conduct, including use of social media sites, their actions, words, and behavior may reflect upon themselves and the city council. When and if an individual elected official makes any comment on any city-owned social media site, and we crossed off this particular place because we put it down below. We crossed off on or on his or her personal social media. We addressed that separately. The elected official must make it clear that the comment is made in his or her capacity as an individual counselor and not on behalf of the city or city councilor unless previously authorized. If there is any ambiguity, the elected official should refrain from such comments until he or she has sought guidance from the mayor or the council as a whole. And now we address when and if an individual elected official makes any comment on a non-city owned social media site, the elected official must make it clear through disclaimer on the site or by a preceding statement that the views and opinions expressed are not those of the individual as a counselor or on behalf of the city council unless previously authorized. Personal sites controlled by the elected official must at all times provide personal, not municipal, contact information. And actually, the personal, and that's because if you're going to have your city council, say, Ann Hanselman, Sanford City Councilor, that's your personal council page, not the city's page. We don't even have a social media page for the whole council, do we, Steve?
No.
And we never will. Sorry, not well. I'm just, we have one for the city for various departments, and I think that's fine. And maybe when we get a marketer in that can help, watch those things, we might change it.
Sure you don't want me to handle that, Mayor?
No. Thanks, Councilor Lanigan. I'll say no.
Yeah, Lou, call me by the phone.
I will. Thank you.
So does anybody
That's what
have
I use.
any
That's what I use now.
comments or questions on this, how this has been clarified?
So I had a couple concerns. I don't have any issue with the first section on the city controlled social media site. I do have a concern around the sort of where that's split out with the individual requirement to have a preceding disclaimer, which is in practice almost impossible on social media because you would have to have that as a standard tagline for every post you make on any page.
This is talking about if you're an elected official on your personal elected officials page, you just put a standard disclaimer. Councilor Lanigan has it on there now on his. I think Councilor Hanselman does too.
This says an elected official on a non-city owned social media site. That could be any page. That doesn't necessarily mean my personal page or a Jonathan for city council page. It could be my friend's page and I comment on their cat video. So that's where I kind of have to do with that.
I don't interpret it that way, but Steve, could you comment at all on this, on what Councilor Martell said?
Yeah, the reason we struck out the elements in the first is that adamant separation between the city-owned and city-maintained social media pages versus you as an individual. trying to recognize that you as an individual have the right of voice. You have the right of political speech to express that on your own social media pages, but trying to draw that line, that distinction between. So for all of the years that you're an elected official, you're never not an elected official, but you still have the right as an individual to free speech, express yourself accordingly. So you can have your own social media pages. So the suggestion is to simply put a disclaimer on that page that this is your personal page. This is not your page as a city councilor. Then you're going to be able to fulfill that element that's trying to be expressed here, and be able to comment on that as an individual, not in your official capacity as a city councilor or speaking on behalf of city council.
I understand what you're saying, but I'm disagreeing as to the scope. The way I read this is not limited to your personal page.
I would agree with that.
So, do you have a suggestion? I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, though. When you're commenting as a counselor, and you're always going to be a counselor, and you make a comment that is say, denigrating another counselor in response to somebody else on their page, that is what I would think would be not allowed, or not appropriate. Does that mean you can't do it, or it means you probably shouldn't? But
well,
we're not saying you can't do it.
Yeah, I mean, I see it more as if I wanted to go, what is it, Sanford's newest city or something like that, on Facebook. Anyways, there's something there that and I used to read it a lot. I haven't read it for probably a year now, but there used to be a lot of stuff on there, and occasionally I would post stuff on there. Now, I was doing that as an individual. I wasn't doing that as a city councilor, but I wasn't putting a disclaimer in. In hindsight, that probably wasn't right. I probably should have put something in there. Now, that's not my Facebook page or my website or anything. It's going on to one of these forums basically and saying, this is what I think of that. And a lot of stuff was around the budget a year ago. But I never put anything in there that said, this is my opinion, not the opinion of the city council. And I think that needs to be there. If you put a statement in, you need to conclude or preempt it by saying, this is my personal. Even though I'm on the Sanford City Council, this is my personal opinion and not representative of the City Council. I just think that needs to be there. As much of a pain in the butt that sounds like it is, I just think it needs to be there, so people don't misinterpret what you're saying as you representing the city council's position on things or representing my position on something. I just think it's a point of clarification that it's part of the price, I guess. If you're going to have the individual freedoms that the city manager is talking about, then I think that's part of the price that you have to pay for the individual freedom to do that.
Councillor Lanigan's hand been up, and then Councillor Hanselman. So, Councillor Lanigan.
Thank you, Mayor. So I guess how I'm interpreting this, and maybe I'm incorrect, is that if we're using our city council page or a page that we made up that is an organ that we disseminate public information and council information through, that's where we have to have these disclaimers listed out, because we're actually using identifying markers of the city of Sanford or as our position. On my personal site, where I'm not going to have the city's phone number or emails listed or Councillor Lanigan anywhere present, I can conduct myself however pretty much I want to. I might have consequences down the road or whatever, but what it's saying here is pretty much it's because it's not municipal controlled, and I'm not using it as a public organ of information. It's my own. Am I understanding?
As long as you put that disclaimer saying that.
So my question is where do you put this disclaimer? Because when I post something online, you will never see that disclaimer. And like John said, I mean, if you put something over 140 characters, that's why Twitter works, is people stop reading it. So you're not going to put this long disclaimer before everything that you say personally on Facebook or anywhere else. So that's where I'm trying to understand is if we're identifying ourselves as a city councilor, meaning we're using a city, like a page that we're taking the city's branding or the council's branding, I agree. But if it means on my personal site, I just, knowing how it works is there's no way to find that information. So even if I had it, it still is a lot of ambiguity and sets us up for failure.
Councillor Hanselman.
Thank you. So I'm just trying to. So what we're doing, right, is just trying to update this to say what we want to say. And I think for me personally, the concern that I have with social media is that in post community. So let me back up first, right? If I want to put out there that Carte Blanche Women's Boutique is the best place to shop in Sanford, I don't think I need to put a disclaimer after that, right? So but if I'm going to say that property taxes in Sanford are too high, I'm talking about city business, or even if it's a school department issue, right? If I'm bringing up city business, and I don't know how we incorporate the verbiage to make this work, but I think at that point I need to then put a disclaimer that this is my opinion. And I want city business for me personally to be pretty broad, and I want to be clear that, you know, if I put something, if any one of us says something relative, and it could be something innocuous like 4th of July. So 4th of July is a city event. So if we're going to say something about 4th of July, I think that falls under the radar of it's city-based. We are city councilors, no matter what we're doing in the community. People know us as such. And I think we need to be clear that we're making that comment, even if it's on our personal page, as under our personal opinion, not to be reflective of the full council. So maybe it's about differentiating. I want to be able to make comments on a vast majority of things and not a disclaimer, but as soon as it's about city operations, staff, events, I think we have to be really careful.
So maybe, Anne, then what we want to do is when in that paragraph that's all read, when and if an individual elected official makes any comment about city business or relating to city business on a non-city, that's when this clicks in.
How do others feel about? Yeah, to me, that's what I would want to accomplish, but I don't know where others fall on that thought process.
I think that's the intent. It wasn't worded that way. I'd be okay with that at least as a starting point.
But it's something that, the specificity of city business in there, because I think the ambiguity, we just went through this, guys. There's national issues and it can get misconstrued as local. So it has to be some specificity in it.
Can I just, Nora, do you want to speak or comment? And then I guess I'll ask Steve if he thinks that would clarify it enough.
Yeah, there might be some idea to clarify it. I mean, we all, there's several of us who do comment on social media about a ton of topics. I think I was talking about a helicopter the other morning that got everybody bent out of shape, and it has nothing to do with Sanford business. We really have no control over the helicopter. It's, so I should feel free to have, this conversation, which for the most part I was having with my neighbors. That should be fine without, someone else mentioned I was a town councilor in there, but it really has nothing to do with the topic of helicopters landing at the helipad. That shouldn't play in. It's an important topic that people like to discuss, but as a councilor, I have no control of it. But when we get to the part where we do have some control, when there's an orange bag discussion, I stay out of it. I just stay out of it as much as possible, because it just gets messy if I comment, because I'm sure a bunch of us, have our opinions on the orange bags, and it's a big city council issue, and I stay out of it. So just stuff like that. I guess we have to use our common sense.
So Steve, comments on adding when and if an individual elected official makes any comment regarding city business on a non-city owned social media site, would that be enough clarification?
So would city business incorporate positions or work product and such under that? So I continuously I'm revolving through my head here. You know, when the Supreme Court was dealing with the issue of pornography and what's allowable in the various mediums and stuff like that, they get into this discussion. It's very hard to define, but you damn well know it when you see it. That's the
So
city
we have that
business.
addressed
It's
further
hard,
down.
it's hard to define, but you know what it is when you're discussing it. You know it's city business.
How about city council business?
Right. Well, that's
That-
good.
I guess I don't want to limit it.
Go ahead, Ann.
I just want to say that I do have concerns about making sure that this includes the school department. So I want to be clear, and maybe it's city operations, but you know, I just don't think.
The truth is that these are our rules of procedure. If we wanted, I mean, honestly, they should have their own rules of procedure. We can't, I don't feel, I mean, I don't know, Steve, am I wrong? But this is how we operate our body. Now, the Zoom stuff that we put in, that was, I considered special.
No, sorry, just to clarify, it related to making commentaries about, so for example, the school budget. So if I'm going to comment on the school budget, I need to disclaim that. You know, so I just want to be inclusive of things that people think we have control over. I think that might be a good way to think of it. If I can have an impact or a perceived impact, and that's an important thing, a perceived impact, then I think we just have to be careful.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's like you can't define it, but you need to play a bunch of examples through. You know, I'm just sitting here thinking like, okay, so I'm on social media. It's snowing outside. There's a lot of snow on the road, and the plow hasn't come by my house yet. And I'm reading on social media, hey, what's up with the plows? They haven't been on the street yet. And I type in, yeah, it hasn't come by my house yet either. Well, that's probably not right for me to do that. You know what I'm saying? It seems harmless enough, but it probably isn't right for me to do that as a city councilor. So this is what I'm saying. It's hard to determine, but if you discuss it enough, then you get a flavor for, you know, as someone said, the intent of what we're trying to do here. And I'm also wondering as I'm listening to this, because you know we had a specific incident with Councilor Lanigan, and would something like this address that specific incident? I don't think it does. I think the same thing could have occurred, and you know, so I know what we're trying to get at. Yeah, I know what we're trying to get at, but I don't know that we're there yet.
Well, see, here's the thing, that what we're trying to do is to say, here's what we as a council expect of each other. The free speech is further down. If you just click up a little bit further, Steve, I think they can see that at the same time they see the other. Okay, right there, stop. Okay, so this is the elected officials' rights, and then about the free speech issue. I think as you see, as we go further, we try to address some of those issues. You have the right to say something, but then the council also has the right to address those issues in a manner that the council decides that they will. So I think, I don't know, I would be happy if in that first paragraph, above the top paragraph that we can see right now, if there was the clarification that it said makes any comment regarding city business, because that would encompass the school issue as well. And I'd be fine with it. Councilor Lanigan, Diane, I'm just going to tell you your hand is up, but this is time for councilor discussion. I will allow the public to weigh in, but we're going to have our discussion first. Okay, so I'm just not going to call on you right now, Diane. Councilor Lanigan, go ahead.
Yeah, I guess this is just what I'm playing with, right? Like, I go back. I'm going to use Councilor Hanselman's kind of analogy. Is like, let's say that I'm at, you know, Franny's and she's packed, and I say something in Franny's, and it's stupid, and someone hears it. They might say, "Hey, that guy, Councilor Lanigan's an idiot, and I'm not going to vote for him again." But other than that, that's what it is, because I live in America and it's free speech. Now, if I'm on my personal Facebook page and I just happen to have more people following me than maybe another counselor, or because of my age group demographic or whatever it might be, like, and I have more reach than someone else, that doesn't put me at more, like, that shouldn't higher my risk of or limit what I say as an individual, because I might have 1,200 people that I could reach in a click versus maybe someone with 100 or no 100. So I just, it's such a fine line. Like, if I just feel if you're on your personal page and you want to be an idiot, I mean, I'm sorry. Like, if you post cat videos, I kind of think that, you know, so it's like, it's all individualized, right? Like, but if I'm on my city council page and I'm out there and I'm saying, yeah, the school budget, we need to vote that thing down because it's no good. Yeah, like, I could understand where I'm in trouble. And I understand that because I've crossed those lines before and learned. And so that's why I conducted, just because it was brought up, conducted certain elements on my personal page, and I conduct certain elements on my professional page. And I think the code of conduct ties us into what we say, meaning, like, to Councillor Stackpole's comment of, you know, I'm not going to start talking negatively on the Sanford happening about the Department of Highway, because that breaks my code of conduct, because I'm not allowed to talk about another department in a negative way in a public forum. So that handles that as a rule. So that's why I just don't want to get tied up too much in this. Because we do have code of conduct too, also balancing out certain things we say.
Do you have a problem, before I go on to Councillor Hanselman and Deputy Mayor Hurley, when and if an individual elected official makes any comment regarding city business on a non-city, with that addition, are you okay?
Can I give you another recommendation, Mayor Mastracchio?
Sure.
Comments related to matters currently pending before the council for a vote, or that the councilor has a reasonable basis to believe will likely come before the council for a vote in the immediate future.
Yeah, that's fine with me. I'm fine with that. But...
I don't think that goes far enough, but.
Right. You know, I just think that
it's a start.
It's a start. Well, that's why I'm more inclined to do less rather than more, but Councillor Hanselman, what have you got to say?
Well, no, I'm really trying to understand Councillor Lanigan's thought process on this. So I guess my question is to him in particular, and then others can certainly chime in. But relative to that paragraph, Councillor Lanigan, are you saying that you would prefer that on any counselor, so not just us, right? So we're creating something that is a document that guides counselors into the future. So you and I have a term ending soon. So who knows, we'll be here next year. So do we want to, when we think about personal social media, do we feel like it's necessary to limit anybody's ability to have discussions about city business on their personal social media? Or is it you're thinking that if I want to say, you know, and I'm not doing well tonight, whatever thing I want to say about, let's pick on the Department of Public Works, right? Plowing in Sanford is terrible. So that's related to city operations. Do you feel like we should be able to say that on our personal social media? Again, is that... Oh, sorry.
You're asking Councillor Lanigan, right?
Yeah, Councillor Lanigan, you're muted.
I'm sorry. I was muted. Yeah, right. So no, that wouldn't, because that wouldn't be allowed, because that would break my code of conduct. So that's why I'm saying. So, like, if I came out and I said, "Hey, listen, community, we need to vote down our school budget because we don't have teachers in school," blah blah blah, I could understand where that crossed the line. You know, so because I'm specific. That's why I'm saying the specificity of it being Sanford related or our city business related. You know, you can take any national issue and twist it any way. I mean, that's what everybody's doing these days anyways, to whatever narrative works. So that's what I want to make sure that doesn't happen in the future, is someone sitting in your seat doesn't like the fact that you're promoting a donut shop or whatever it is. You know what I mean? Like, it's just whatever it is, you're allowed to do that, and you can make that judgment as a counselor going forward. If you make a comment like, I took my comment down because obviously it wasn't going well, right? So I made that judgment on my own, and I didn't need a rule to do it. I didn't need rules and procedure. And now the process, now if it's in here, is under the elected officials' rights, is like the mayor was saying, is the process is in there, is if there is a dispute, we can go through that process, and you could bring it up and say, Councilor Lanigan, you said this on your Facebook page about the lacrosse program. That was totally uncalled for, and we want to have an executive session and discuss it with the council. And there might be some ramification or censure or whatever the process is. So that's what I'm saying is you can't write this stuff for every circumstance. So if you write in too much, then you're violating people's rights. So you're almost better having the rules in place. So if it does happen, because it's going to happen, and there's going to be 100 ways to Sunday that it will happen. So that's where I'm coming from.
If I can follow up, because I just, so just to follow up to that, Councilor Lanigan, and my example wasn't a good one, I think. So what we're trying to do, right, is protect our First Amendment right and be able to have an opinion as an elected official. So I guess maybe to phrase it that way, I want to be able to say, I support the school department budget. Please go vote, right? So, but I'm talking about city business. So what I'm hearing in this paragraph that we're working on is that if I want to say that, I need to also then disclaim, this is my personal opinion, not representative of the full council. So I think, and that's maybe is a better example, right? Because that statement is a positive statement. It's in support of something, and for the, in my opinion, be a betterment of the community, but that might not be your opinion or Councilor Tuttle's opinion. So I have to be careful with any statement that I make, and more careful than I've been, frankly, that it's my statement and my belief. I think also another example would be that wouldn't fall under like our code of conduct would be we need potholes filled. And I think I've made this mistake. I've said, gosh, call the DPW, they'll get out within a couple of days. I probably shouldn't say that, right? Because I don't have control over that. I don't know when they'll get out, what their workload is. So those are things I'm thinking about where we have to be careful when we talk about city business, about saying I'm only one person, it's just my opinion. Does that make more sense? Or
right, but I would never like report you or write a negative email because you complained about potholes on the thing, or said that someone could go get a pothole filled or something like that. Is, and that's what I'm saying is if we're leaving it up to ourselves we have to, as individuals, police ourselves, and that's by the layout of like code of conduct, and all of that stuff. Those things are pretty specific, and I've brought like they're easy lines to cross when you're talking about different departments and stuff like that publicly. And so that's where I'm saying the violations come in for us as counselors, and the action of the counselor against said counselor can happen. But trying to put it in here that I'm on my personal page and I'm mad that we cut boys lacrosse this year. Like, I'm not allowed to say that now all of a sudden, but I've been coaching boys lacrosse for the last 10 years and I helped develop the program. So, but because I was elected, I'm not allowed to be sad that boys lacrosse got cut because it's a city program. So that's, if I did it on my city council page and I made a big stink, yeah, I could see that being a problem. Or like when I went on and blasted Marcel or something in a public forum because he's an employee. So those are the things that, like, those are guided by the code of conduct. They're not guided by our individual rights. And that's what I feel this is.
So
I don't know.
If these are kind of covered under code of conduct or elsewhere, this is pretty close to violating First Amendment rights. I'd just like to strike this whole section except for this last sentence where personal sites can't have municipal contact information. And
well, I understand where you're coming from, but we already had that up above. We just clarified it further down below. Who was struck out, and I absolutely think we need to have it here because I think it needs to be really clear to anybody going. So, I guess I'd like to hear from. I would be fine with it if it just said relating to city business, and I liked Councilor Hanselman's particular example that she gave, which was a positive. Like, I'd like to be able to say, go out and vote for the school budget. I want to be able to do that, but I'm probably, I'm not going to do that on a city-owned page, but I might do it on my personal page.
So we're already covering the city. Oh, sorry, Steve, go ahead.
Yeah, shoot me for picking sides or jumping in here. So as you've been discussing this, the whole paragraph in red about the non-city owned social media sites, that is such a rabbit hole. That is just such a rabbit hole to go down. In that, if you go down to the elected officials' rights, that was written by legal counsel initially, and then we've added this further clarification in here: dispute or determination of the extent that if there's anything that's contested by the council, then that goes back for legal review, because it is such a difficult piece to define what is not protected free speech or what is not protected under the First Amendment. You as counselors and as individuals, you absolutely have that protected free speech. You have the right to political speech. And if the fact is out there that somebody's offended by your political speech or your position on something or such under that doesn't make it wrong.
But
Still
Steve,
is protected free speech.
We're not
so
the
when
Wild
it comes
West
to
here.
when it comes to this is what I've struggled with in this whole situation, is that when it comes to the city-owned sites, that is knowingly a city-owned site, is knowingly that it's being maintained by the city. Anything you as a counselor should post or say on that absolutely is in your elected capacity. Outside of that, you're on an individual account or on somebody else's account or such under that, you're getting into the realm of political speech, protected free speech, and your ability to do that. I think if you simply can recognize that if you're speaking on city business, regardless of where that is, you can't do that on the city-owned sites. But if you're anywhere else, if you're speaking on city business, you darn well better recognize that you're doing that and conduct yourself accordingly. As long as you're not debating amongst yourselves and developing work product and positions that is subject to the realm of the public forum, I think this is such a dangerous rabbit hole to try to delineate what you can't do on a non-city owned site.
So
you can't. Go ahead, Ian.
Well, I just want to say, so what we're trying to develop, though, Steve, is the ability to protect my ability and Councilor Lanigan and anybody else's ability to say exactly this, but to disclaim it. And so part of, I think, the missed point with Councilor Lanigan's last Facebook post is that, and what we all have to remember is that, decisions get made at the school department level and I get blamed for it. You know what I mean? That there's that weird perception that I can impact things that I have no impact over, or that I'm connected to things I'm not connected to. So, I was receiving communications that are like, oh my gosh, you get tied in because you sit at a table with people. So that paragraph to me is protecting both Councilor Lanigan from my opinions and me from him. And it's saying I could say whatever I want, but I'm going to disclaim it. I'm going to say, this is my opinion. And so I thought what we're trying to develop here was exactly what you're saying, the ability to put out there whatever we want to say. But if it's related to city business, city operations, we have to disclaim it as just our opinion, whether it's a positive or a negative. Now, if it's a negative, then it might be an issue under our code of conduct, which is a separate issue, right? But so I guess I would request, and we're running out of time potentially, but that we get legal to review that a paragraph of whether or not we can say if it's, so we're not saying don't say it, we're saying disclaim it, is what I'm reading here myself. But I'd say kick it to legal and guess an opinion.
No, and just separate, but on the same point, I also have concerns about what other counselors may say. And again, this hasn't happened, so it's not pointed to any individual, may say on even their personal site that may reflect negatively on the council, therefore reflect negatively on me. So I think that has to also be at least part of the consideration. Again, I don't know that these are things you can put in black and white, but there are things that need to be, brought out as part of this discussion.
Councilor Lanigan has his hand up.
So I just want to kind of maybe put this in perspective. So let's use the masks, right? Like that was very divisive in our community. And some of us believe that they were good for certain reasons, and some of us believe that they were silly for other reasons. Now, if I stand on one side and I voice my opinion, and the city has a mask ordinance in place, you're saying that I'm not allowed to say that, or if I do, I have to put some disclaimer in on my personal page, because I personally don't feel that the masks are a good thing, or I'm having a discussion with my buddy about his post that he wrote on his Facebook page about his masks and the issues that they're having. Or we could use this example as you've got a lot of emails and negative stuff about the comment that I made on the Chicago instance with the unions. Now let's take the fact that I put out there that I was vaccinated. So all these people that hate vaccines and think that they're like, I'm a sheep or whatever, I got about 30 negative comments, but I didn't see anybody bring me in front of the council and because I said I was vaccinated when half the population doesn't want to vaccinate for their certain reason. So that's what I'm saying. It's such a slippery slope when we get down to, because we represent people and we're not always going to be on the same side of the fence that we're representing. That's what makes us a good council, because we don't come up with work product ahead of time, because we listen to different constituents. And by limiting what we can say is you're limiting our representation. And that's what I'm afraid of. And if I have more of a broader base on my personal side, then so be it. That's just why maybe I'm an elected official. And maybe someday I won't be because they don't like the things I say on my personal side, or they like my kids because they're cute. I don't know. It's all, so that's the slippery slope that I'm concerned about.
Other comments from other councilors?
I think I'm commented out.
Okay. I think that we need to vote. I think we'll take this back and I'm going to try to add in the, I personally think that we need something on here that addresses the fact that you need to say when you're discussing city business, that you are putting your own personal opinion out. I feel like it's really critical to be, you're a counselor, but you're a counselor who some people look at as having power, and there's power in your comments. And I think that it needs to be stated that it's like if you promise somebody you're going to do something, you're only one vote. You can't promise anybody anything. That's it. That is the way it goes.
Conduct, though. Those are those things that are covered in the code of conduct, and you have repercussions on that. So that's what I'm saying.
There are two different things. One is how we conduct ourselves. This is how we govern ourselves. They're two different things. So I guess I'd like to know if anyone thinks it's worth sending this back for a little bit more reworking, or I guess I'd just like to get a thumbs up or a thumbs down on including this paragraph. I do think that it's really critical that we have the last sentence, and I just think it would be fine if we just added that when it's city-owned, when it's on a non-city owned site of yours, personal site, that if you're discussing city business, you need to make a disclaimer that this is your personal. I think that's pretty simple. Any comments? Any councilor, deputy mayor, any comments on where you'd like to go from here?
It's one of those things that, it'd be nice to write it in such a way that it is only on current topics, that we stay away from, getting
I get the
getting
sense
in
that
the
there
weeds.
are councilors who would be against that as well. I don't know that we're going to be unanimous.
I get that. I get that. The hard part is, you and I both know, we've been through different people. It's really when tempers slide, if this becomes a problem and you get angry about something that personally you feel strongly about. And it's like, how do you count to 10, make sure to temper your social media response to what you're feeling, so that you don't create a situation where you're affecting the city council. Like, Luke, if he had, maybe if he had waited half an hour before he wrote that post, he would have made sure to really clarify that he was upset about what was happening with the union negotiations in Chicago. You know, it's, you know, sometimes you have to take that deep breath instead of reposting someone's stuff really quickly. And, you know, how do you get that across to not just ourselves, but we have to think of future councils so that any future councils care enough to have this discussion and to really work it through on both sides of the conversation.
So I see an X by Councilor Lanigan. That means you don't like this paragraph at all?
No, I somehow got all these emojis going on and I can't get rid of them.
Oh, okay. So it means nothing.
I hate to be wishy-washy, but I can go with the flow on this. If it needs to go back and be reviewed by legal, to Steve's point that it's a rabbit hole, then I can live with that, or I can pretty much live with the paragraph as written. So.
Okay. All right. So we may send it back and just have it reviewed a little bit and see if we can clarify it. Councilor Hanselman, would that be to your liking?
Yeah, I mean, I think I said, I hear Steve's concern, and I don't want to discount that, and that's why I prefer that we invest in legal, you know, sharing an opinion on it. But I'd like to see it stay, but be a little bit more specific to city business, because I don't want to disclaim everything I say. That's not realistic. So
no, I don't think that was the intent. So I agree with you on that. So, and I would also say if people have individual suggestions on how we might rework this, please send them to Larissa. Because it may be easier to do that. Councilor Tuttle, any comments? You there?
I've just been on the phone and they told me to come back to my seat, Madam Mayor.
Oh, okay. All right. I just didn't know if you had any comments. We're going to send this back, this particular paragraph, and try to make it a little clearer that the disclaimer would only have to be when you're discussing specific city business. And it may just be the kinds of things that Deputy Mayor Hurley said, which were relating to business that's going to come before the council or that's currently before. I'm just trying to think. I know Diane Connolly's hand is up. If it's we haven't finished discussing the whole piece, Diane. So if your comment is related to this particular issue, I guess I could let you comment because we're not going to come back to this. As a member of
I would ask Madam Mayor that in the future, discussing the rules of procedure and the code of conduct, that you entertain a future agenda item to discuss the code of conduct with appointed officials of the city, because I know of a few, including myself, who would like to discuss those code of conduct agreements that were signed via the former mayor.
Okay. Thank you, Diane.
Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Okay. Oh, wait, Steve, did we address? So we did have that one with the free speech. Everybody's okay with this one right here, right? The one that says the attorney will send it to legal counsel if there's a problem. Everybody okay with that?
I do have some issue with that, where the legal counsel is the final say. I don't know, if there's some egregious situation, is that the final say, or how would that work? Maybe Steve can chime in.
Yeah, so the reason I would support this going to the legal counsel is it's not in the layman's hands to make a determination on protected free speech. So when I look at the work that the attorney did just recently, and you look at the number of court cases and rulings that were cited in all of that, it's so extensive. And even then, the interpretation changes and from time to time. So ever evolving. I mean, there's a national discussion ongoing right now about the filtration that's taking place under the large social media outlets. That's going to come to a head here shortly. So
Okay. Anybody else have any questions? Because I think it's exactly what we probably should have done the last hearing. So next one is, okay, section 41. All right, nothing's changed in the first paragraph. This is the add-on. The mayor may remove or redesignate after full discussion by the city council conflicts, real or perceived, violations of council rules of procedure or conduct, or at the request of the majority of the city council. Up for discussion.
So this appears as though does not require a city council vote or changes.
Nope. It never has. There has never been a vote for appointment to committee. I mean, there's never been required, according to the way the attorney interpreted our rules. And in fact, I looked back at various council minutes over the years, and there were times when the appointments were just accepted, and then there were times when they were voted. And it really depended on who was the chair of the town council, it seemed at the time, or as it proceeded even through the mayor. The mayor sometimes did it, and then others did not have a council vote. So it was interesting.
So personally, I would like to see the council vote on a recommendation. So I would like to see that changed.
Well, I just wanted to point out that in subcommittees that are advisory, there are oftentimes when a counselor has a conflict, doesn't mean they should be removed from the committee permanently, but that I will say, I'm going to cover that meeting because you have a conflict, and I don't want there to be any, even a perception of a conflict and you're discussing something that you are personally involved in some way. So
that happened recently with myself. We discussed it, and she went instead of me. So you wouldn't want a single removal like that, or to have to go before the full council for one topic. You know? Okay,
so this is I'm sorry, maybe I misunderstood. So this is for conflict of interest situations.
It's for a lot of different things.
Or violations, both.
The attorney actually suggested that the simple way to do this would be to say that these committees, these ad hoc advisory committees, that counselors serve at the pleasure of the mayor. And this was, we just tried to make it a little clearer in terms of all the issues and to also provide a way for the majority of the city council to also weigh in. Even if the mayor didn't want to, that the majority of the council could request someone's removal from a committee if they felt that they had been, for whatever reason. We don't even have to, no reason stated. It actually gives this particular sentence gives more power to the council down the road. But
yeah, I actually like the lawyer's recommendation. Just say that people serve on committees at the mayor's pleasure. It's simple, it's easy to understand, and
I like that one better too. But I went with majority. Councilor Hanselman, you have your hand up.
Just to make sure I understand, when we talk about after a full discussion, so presumably it's an agenda item, so there is discourse, and the mayor would hear opinions of the full council as part of that, and the public would hear, the thoughts and opinions of the council as part of that process.
Yep.
Thank you.
Councilor Lanigan?
So the only thing that I would maybe bring up, and again, this is more back to code of conduct, is to protect all of us, is would violations of council rules of procedure, and so would that be handled ahead of time in, say, an executive session to discuss what those violations are?
The rules are very clear about what you can do in executive session. We are elected officials. We're not employees. We do our business in public.
So what I would say, Luke, looking at this would be up to the mayor. So you serve at the pleasure of the mayor. The mayor would decide how to proceed. So you might have a mayor in the future that says, okay, I'm going to bring this to the full council. We're going to have a public discussion on it, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to do what the, the council votes. Or the mayor might say, I'm going to redesignate you from one committee to another, or something like that. It would be up to the mayor. Again, going back to you serve at the pleasure of the mayor, which is not what this says. I understand. It would be up to the mayor, whoever the mayor is, to decide how they want to handle a particular situation. It gives the mayor the latitude to enforce and discipline members of the council. And I think the mayor should have that latitude, frankly.
So and again, maybe this is a question because I wasn't part of the charter commission. My understanding is the charter was written the way it was, is so there was 7 equal members on the council doing the council's, the work of the people from that aspect. And the mayor's position was more of a ceremonial one. So I'm fine with this being in here. I guess my question is, I don't know if I like the example that Deputy Mayor Hurley put in there, and maybe it was put in the wrong spot, but I already thought there was rules in place for us to use our discretion as counselors if there is a perceived conflict of interest, and that's up to us. And there's certain guidelines that, abstain us from certain elements if there's financial benefits, if there's certain things, but those are things that we follow as counselors. I'd hate the mayor to be like, hey, I think, you're gonna, because you poured concrete once, or I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, it's very ambiguous.
I think you're conflating two things, though, Council.
That's what I want to make sure.
You're talking, when we talked about the conflict of interest that was in state law, that's in the charter, that is a different conflict than having an interest, not a monetary interest, but maybe, let's use as an example, townhouse properties. Just because Councilor Hurley is associated with townhouse properties doesn't mean that she controls what they do as business. But if there's an issue that's dealing with them, she should probably remove herself from that discussion at a subcommittee level.
Right,
and
but
then,
she doesn't need you to.
I'll give you a better example because people love to use this. I don't technically meet the criteria for having a conflict of interest for anything pertaining to Jeunesse Concrete.
Right.
Nothing.
Right.
I would not meet the state criteria or anything, but because people in the city have a perception, oftentimes I will recuse myself because of that perception, even though I technically have no conflict of interest. And that those types of things, if I wasn't making that decision myself, I think it would be up. The mayor has to help in making that decision sometimes because they know how hurtful it can be to a full council if I wasn't making the right decision. You see what I'm saying?
I do, but that's why I respect you, and I think you've been elected as many times as you have is because you do it the right way. So I just don't know. Like, I don't think anybody shadowing you would prevent or not prevent it. I mean, that's why I'd hate to say, like, you think that maybe you're better understanding water than I am on solid waste, so I get pulled off solid waste for a couple of weeks because we want to discuss clean water. So that's all I'm saying is I just don't know what gives, and no offense to you, Madam Mistracchio, it's just in general, I don't know what gives the mayor as a position that authority to know where the conflict is. And I always thought that was laid out by state law, and the counselor's duty was
it's a different conflict. This is a different conflict of being able to trust that the advisory committees are able to do their work in a way that is perceived as objective. That's all. It wouldn't be if you have a brother who's bringing something in front of the zoning subcommittee for whatever reason, then you wouldn't want to be sitting on that zoning subcommittee. You wouldn't. And sometimes some people forget that they probably shouldn't do it. And I do think, I honestly look at all of the agendas. I look at what's being heard. And that's why when I saw something on the agenda, I was proactive and said, I don't think you should do this. I will go instead of you. I mean, I think that that is my job. My job is to make sure that as a council, we do things properly so that we don't get in any trouble. I think that was the job when I served as chair of the town council.
I just want to go back to that comment, Madam Mayor, is the reason the charter was written the way it was is because when we were a town and we had town chairs, the power that chair had was sometimes abused. And so that's why my understanding is a lot of our charter was designed.
So I really disagree with that statement.
Well, I'm not even speaking of you.
From.
I'm just speaking of other things that I've heard in the past. So that's why I'm saying that that's how I thought the charter was written, was to avoid those circumstances where too much power was put into one person's hands, where it diminishes the
actually the charters as they went forward when they created a mayor who was elected at large actually gave that position, in my opinion, more influence than you ever had as a chair. I mean, we have two people who sitting here who actually sat on charter commissions. So I think that I'm, to be honest, what was written in these rules of procedure as in relation to the chair kind of transitioned into the mayor's, and I know that it was adjusted somewhat, but it was no different than what it was when we had a chair of the town council and a mayor who runs the city council, who sets the agenda. Always, a lot of that language, if you go back and you trace it through, there's much that has not changed from the very beginning. Councillor Hanselman.
So I guess what the question on the table, right, is whether or not we feel like this paragraph where we give the mayor, and we always have to remember, right, it's not us. So it's not right. Mayor Mastracchio, it's not, Councilor Lanigan and Deputy Mayor Herlihy doing the right thing. It's other people. So the question is, do we want to give the mayor the ability to have some recourse and remove people from subcommittee? And I guess I would be a yes for that personally.
Okay, so you're okay with this as written?
Yes.
Okay.
And just one last thing. I think to Luke's point, I think you have to give the mayor certain latitudes to enforce our rules and our course of conduct. If not, and I said it before, what's the point of having them if the mayor can't enforce them? And so I think this is still a light touch. In my opinion, it's not a heavy. We're not talking about having a mayor who can remove a city councilor or something like that, which would be pretty heavy. And I'm not going there at all. But this is a light touch, and I think we've all learned from the past that the lighter touch that we can do on this. We're all adults. We all have we all have good common sense, and sometimes you step in it, and when you do, you need somebody to say, hey, maybe you shouldn't have done that, or maybe you should have thought this through. And I'm not really speaking to you, Councilor Lanigan, at all. I'm speaking generally, okay? And I think the mayor is the person to do that. Again, I hate to go back in time here, but many times a superintendent would come to me as the chairman of the school board and say, well, I'll give you a real simple example, okay? We had a school board member who used to wear his baseball cap at the meeting, okay? And so he'd be on TV and he'd have his baseball cap on. So who do you think they come to resolve that? They come to me. They say, Bob, you got to go talk to him. You got to tell him to take his hat off during the meetings. So those are the types of things that leadership does. So I think you've got to give, and I would say that in terms of the charter, and Maura can chime in on this, our intent with the mayor was to have them the mayor function as the Senate, the chairman of the selectmen would have functioned. PR in the sense that they're the point man for or point woman for city issues, and so it was always and the spokesman. They were the baby kissers and things like that would go out into the community. That was my vision of what the mayor was, but it was not to diminish the role of the chairman of the board of selectmen at all, whatever those latitudes were. And I don't know what they were, as I was never a selectman. So, but anyways.
This is written fine. I'm not arguing this, honestly. I think I'm coming across wrong. I just want to make sure that, like, the conflict of interest thing, like with what Deputy Mayor Hurley was talking about, that's the only thing I was concerned about. Yeah. I'm all right with this. This actually, I feel, does exactly what it says it's going to do. So yeah. I'm not arguing this.
I understand. We don't want it to be punitive. You know, we don't want some mayor in the future, wagging their finger, and so we have to be cautious, but.
Can I just say as well, I think it actually corrects what might have been the process you disliked about the way the mayor put it into her comments and then take you off subcommittee. I think the fact that there's a consulting piece actually prevents that from happening again, which I think corrects the issue that we had and the way you felt about how it was handled. So I think that gets corrected, and I think that's a positive development.
Totally. I think it's written well, honestly. I don't have any problem with it.
All right.
And I just hope you understand why we can't do this business in executive session. And maybe at some point I made a note to myself that as a council, I've asked, see if Maine Municipal can give us a boardsmanship workshop that will include, a personal one, not where, like on a regular off council night, but on a regular Tuesday night instead of having when we don't have a council meeting, so that we can actually talk about boardsmanship, what is an executive session, what is legal in an executive session to discuss, those kinds of things, because it is very clear that you can't go in, like, for example, the school committee shouldn't go into executive session to discuss who they want to elect as chair. For the same reason that you can't have a secret ballot for election of a chair. That is not a legal to do in executive session. So you may think that things have to happen in executive session, but we're not employees, not a condition of employment, not a personnel issue. We evaluate ourselves and we do it in public. And that was the only other thing in here that I think I didn't mention, that we have not, I asked, there has not been a self-evaluation. It is called for in the rules of procedure. And I plan to schedule that hopefully sometime this summer when we're able to meet in person. But that is another public meeting, happens in front of the whole public, exactly the same way any meeting would. It's not that you do it in executive session. So I guess that's why, this kind of is like evaluating ourselves. I think it's been a really good discussion. And I'm hoping I didn't do it this evening because I thought it would be too much, but that I plan to do the same thing with the code of conduct, because I think it's really critical that we go through it and read it and see if it needs to be tweaked. But at the very least, we come out with a better understanding of what it is, and we have that discussion so that we're all. And unfortunately, we don't often do that when you're in January. It's kind of like it's just been like, let's just pass it through and not have that discussion.
Yeah, that's yeah. That's a great point. I've been sitting here thinking we're going to have some legacy here. Some of us are going to either drop out or not get reelected, and others are going to continue. And so there's always an overlap of new members and present members and so on and so forth. But this ought to be, we've been through these meetings, like here's your code of conduct. Okay, anybody have any comments? Boom. Okay, move on. We really need to have an annual discussion of these things so that new members, when they come on, they hear from the current members that, you know, these are the kinds of things you probably shouldn't do. These are the kind of things that don't reflect well on other city council members, and have that kind of that discussion maybe on an annual basis. And probably not in January, which is typically when the code of conduct comes up in a stack of all other papers. And hey, do you like this? Yeah. You want to make any changes? No. All right, move on. You know.
And I really don't think we really had an opportunity. I mean, I was familiar with it, but I don't know if Councilor Martel had the opportunity to really sit down. There was a lot of things happening as a new counselor. So I think that it is important. And it is one of the things that I expect us to review when we do our self-evaluation later this year.
Yeah, and I mean, if you're a new council member, you come on in January, you don't see the code of conduct, and you go post something obnoxious on Facebook, you're not going to know that's a violation of the code of conduct or anything else. So, you know, we need to be aware of all that stuff. But it's easy for us old hands to sit here and say, you know, this is how you should conduct yourselves. But it's not easy because people just don't have the breadth of experience to understand that it reflects negatively on them, reflects negatively on the city council, and negatively on the community as a whole. So we all need to work together to make that happen. Enough from me. I'm sorry.
Okay, so we're okay with that one. I think that's
excuse me, Madam Mayor. Can we just clarify this section with one thing? So can we add so for conflicts, can we just say conflict of interest, real or perceived? To me, that reads any sort of conflict, like even a personal conflict. But that's just my layman's terms for my own reading.
But it might be not a conflict of.
So can I just add in, what this does is it slows everything down. By having a full discussion with the city council, and by, you know, the majority of the city council having to agree, a rash decision can't be made because it has to go through a certain process. And I think that's what the intent of this is to do, is to slow it down to make sure all the ducks are in a row. So everybody makes good decisions. That's kind of how I read it.
Yeah, I just don't want it to say just conflicts of interest. I think it is just for conflicts. It isn't like a personal, sometimes there are real conflicts there. So for example, I'm trying, you know what, I can only think of negative ones. So I guess I'm fine with it the way that it is. Is anybody else suggesting that we change any of the language in it? Not seeing any hands.
Can we maybe remove the perceived or clarify?
No, because it is perceived interest. Those are the ones that really affect us the most. To be honest, if a council can't be seen as being acted objectively because somebody, it's the reason that Councilor Hurley, Deputy Mayor Hurley, didn't have any real conflicts by state law definition, but the perceived conflict was enough to be able to say, maybe you shouldn't do this. Let's remove you till we take that out of the equation. And then the decision can't be questioned at all. That's the point.
Okay, but
we're protecting all of us.
Those are perceived conflicts of interest, right? Is that, to me, this reads any sort of conflict, whether, you know, if I get in an argument with John Tuttle about whether he should have chopped down his tree or not, that could be a conflict between council members.
It may mean that I don't put. I think it's more if there was an issue that that a particular counselor had a real issue with somebody that was on a subcommittee, that I probably wouldn't put, or an issue that was coming before a subcommittee. I mean, there's just so many other ways. I just think there are conflicts that you can best avoid and not exacerbate. I don't think it's really happened a lot, to be honest.
Okay.
I mean,
I just
I've
want to
only
make
been here
sure
a few months.
I'm sorry.
It's more a case of when there are issues that are before the council, that we have to be careful that there are no even perceived conflicts. The real conflicts are already addressed by state law, but the truth is we're not going to probably have those conflicts. The ones where there is monetary reward for what you do. I mean, if a counselor comes in and they don't disclose that they have a business interest in something that they're like a silent partner in something that then they're going to get a contract with the city, well, that's a real no-no. That you can get in real trouble.
Right.
I'm just saying that that's a different kind of conflict of interest. These are the perceived conflicts can be the worst. The most trouble for us, the most troublesome. Anyway, we need to get, I think it's 9 after 9. So, by what we've changed, we'd be done by now. Because we did put in that 9 o'clock there, guys. So let's try to focus this up. What I've got is that other than the one paragraph that we really just wanted to fine tune a little bit, everything else seems to be going to come through the way it is. If you have any other comments, I said, funnel them through Larissa, and then we'll bring them back. Steve, do you have anything that you want to add to the discussion, having been through this whole thing for a while?
I'll go back to section 33 on the social media aspect. Work with legal counsel again on that. I know this is one of those very difficult situations where the legal counsel kind of likes to put their hands up and push it back to you as elected officials to make those determinations. But let me see what else I can get for work product for you.
Yeah, anything suggested. You heard the flavor of our conversation, so I think you can explain to them what it is we're looking for, and then maybe they can get something that we can all come to. Okay. Anything else anybody wants to bring up? And as I said, I will be bringing back before us the code of conduct, and I think that this discussion and our discussion around the code of conduct will then segue us into a self-evaluation that will include a boardsmanship workshop. So that's where I'm going. So if you have any thoughts or questions along that line, I'd really like to hear them going forward. Okay, I think we have pretty much, talked this one to death.
I just have one, closing question. I apologize, but I have to ask you, remind me why we don't have all of our standing committees listed. So, public safety, which is near and dear to my heart, isn't on here. The solid waste isn't on here. So is that on purpose, or is there a reason why those aren't listed?
Well, there are standing committees, and then there are sometimes when I think they've become more standing committees. They used to be more temporary ad hoc committees. But we can look at that too. We'll go back and take a look at that, Steve, and just make sure everything's up to date. We kind of we were really concentrating on just a few of the areas that we had designated as areas that we would discuss based on that agreement. So yes, I absolutely think we could use a lot more work on both of these, and at the very least discussion around the code of conduct. So yes, we're not done with all this yet. So.
Yep.
Okay, I think we're all set, right, Steve?
Yeah.
I don't have my agenda in front of me, so now it's councillor comments.
Correct.
Okay, Councillor Martel, do you have any comments?
Nothing new. I just wanted to thank everyone for a good discussion tonight. Thank you.
Councillor Hanselman.
Yes, just one quick thing. If you haven't seen it yet, it is on social media, but there is a fire station facility survey that we're trying to get out to as broad a base of our neighbors and community members and taxpayers as possible. So if folks want to reach out and check that out, it's on the City of Sanford, Maine Fire Department. So you're searching for the Fire Department, City of Sanford, Maine Fire Department, and the survey's pinned at the top of their page, and we're just really looking for input from folks. So I want to thank folks for filling that out for us. That's it.
Thank you. Councillor Tuttle.
I'm all set, Madam Mayor. My computer seems seems to be misfunctioning today.
You found the emojis.
I know. Did you find them? I saw the crying. I forget what they're called. I just didn't know if you were just having fun.
Yeah.
Councilor Stackpole.
Echoing Councilor Martell's comments, that I think this was a very good discussion. And just briefly, I truly do believe that we're all good counselors and we have the best intentions of the work we do in the city and the forefront of our minds here. And I think that was also reflective of the comment. One other thing that dawned on me, I was going to ask this question, so I'm going to ask Steve maybe to write it down and find out. Regarding the cable franchise, they talked about having one cable TV connection to certain buildings, and one of them was the high school. I think we were out. My experience is that if you just get one connection to one building, it's pretty much useless. You have to, and I want to, this is part of the agreement, want to make sure this is allowed for us to then take that one feed and I think the term would be disaggregate it throughout the building. So for instance, in my day and age, we had a man land on the moon for the first time. It would be great if every, or you could have certain areas within a school building, students could come together and sit and all watch the same broadcast at the same time. If there's just one cable connection, again, my experience is that's typically in the library. They wheel a TV in, and we want to be able to send it out to the classrooms. That might be something also, see if they're willing to do within certain buildings, is to run a coax network as part of the distribution model for that. So I don't know where you are in things, whether that's something that you can think of, but if they're going to hook us up to cable, it'd be nice to be able to watch it in more than one place. And I have had a school that was constructed and they put in a coax network so that we could connect things up, and the cable company came in with wire cutters and cut all of our cables to the individual rooms because they didn't want that to happen. So that's the other, that had nothing to do with this cable company. It's just, I'm just talking from my experience. It was quite disappointing to see them basically destroy our video network that we had put in the building. So anyways, for what it's worth, we'll move on from there.
This would be the Exhibit 2 that's being developed for the franchise agreement that lists all of the locations that they will be responsible for installing the cable connection as well as providing the connective box needed to receive broadcast there.
I'm not seeing anything. Is it on the screen
Oh,
behind
it's
you?
on screen share.
Yes.
All right, I got to change my view. Well, I've made my point, I guess, and let me put this down. Okay. Right. So, I mean, again, I think my point is that video is still important in education. We tend to think everything's going over the internet, but sometimes video makes sense. So even for the fire station, maybe the connection is going to be in the kitchen. That's not going to do them any good out in their classrooms. And what if they have multiple classrooms? They're going to want to break up their group, and so they can both watch the demonstration at the same time, but more in groups of 20 instead of putting 40 people in one small space to watch. So I think at least having permission to distribute the signal, I think, is important. Whether they go ahead and they'll actually run the cables in the buildings, which they probably won't, but at least have permission to distribute it within the building. So if that's desired, then, we can do that. We can pay for that. Maybe it doesn't have to go to like every classroom or every area in a new fire station, but we'd want to get it to a couple of different designated areas. So that distribution piece, I think, is important. So thank you for that.
Okay.
Okay, Councillor Lanigan, any comments?
Yes, ironically enough, I actually wanted to thank Councillor Hanselman. The social media work that she does is quite amazing, from promoting our trails, our ATVs, our fire station feasibility. She does a huge thing, and then more also you have like kind of your niche that you're doing too. And I just want to say it makes it easy for myself as a counselor not having to follow up with all these conversations and stuff. So just as being on the same team as you, thank you very much for all that work, because it is a lot of time and energy, and it takes a certain person to be able to respond to all of that. So I just wanted to say thank you. I don't know if you get it enough. Wanted to thank the ATV Club. I don't know. I think we all got like 40 or 50 emails this weekend. It was pretty impressive. They came together and they were from all over. So I just wanted to acknowledge that we did receive them. I know we didn't have time to read them all off here. And then last but not least, may the 4th be with you.
Okay.
Good job, Luke. I'm glad you said it. You can go now and watch some Star Wars. Thanks for those nice words about the social media. I don't know. I try to avoid a lot of it because, yeah. Anyway, nothing else this evening.
And I have no other comments. Any future agenda items? Councillor Martel?
No, not today. Thank you.
Councillor Hanselman?
I have one. Officer Small brought it forward to me as a concept, and I would really love to help put this together, but I need some guidance. So I think it might be helpful for me to attend a subcommittee meeting, either at solid waste or property, to discuss the concept of and I don't know if this would actually be an adopt a road program, but some kind of concerted effort to have a constant presence in litter control and cleanup. And I know that's conversations come up in other aspects, but Officer Small saw some great success and some volunteer folks getting really involved. But his comment, which is accurate, I think, is that doing that twice a year isn't going to really make a significant impact for the long term. So I would love to be part of a process that looks into that. But again, I think I need some guidance, or what we've done in the past and hasn't worked at a subcommittee level.
Okay, so I'll leave that to Steve to put that in the proper place, okay?
I would recommend that goes to solid waste. So we've worked with church groups and Boy Scouts and other affiliations such as that in the past to, let's say, doing the physical collection, providing equipment and such to pick that up, and then disposing of the waste thereafter.
Okay.
Let me know. You can take my spot, Councillor Hanselman, on that one.
Well, she doesn't want to replace you on it. She just wants
just that time. No, I'm saying I'm sharing my seat.
She just
wants to Luke, she can replace me.
Okay. I forgot where I was. Okay, that was Councillor Tuttle. Do you have any future agenda items?
I don't right now, Madam Mayor, but I'll be writing them down, and I'll call you later this evening.
Gee, thanks. I'll be sleeping. Councillor Stackpole. Okay, Councillor Lanigan.
Yes, for zoning, I'm getting a lot of questions on the retail marijuana and where that's at. So I know Councillor Stackpole, you're kind of heading that up, so I don't know if it's back on the agenda or not, but yeah, just wondering if that could get brought back up. And
okay, it'll come when it's ready, I think. I know they're working on it. Deputy Mayor Herlihy.
I'm all set this evening. I'm all set this evening.
And I have nothing else. And I want you to all realize that we put on 9 o'clock and it's 9:30. See, it's going to be hard to stop by 9 o'clock.
We're getting better, though.
Just think about that till in 2 weeks and how you really want to vote on that change in our rules of procedure. I will declare us adjourned. See you all next week.
Good night.
Bye.
Have a great night.